Hey everyone, welcome back to the Everything Video Game channel. For this video, we're going to be going over every single Pokemon. Now, just listing Pokemon would be boring, so with each one, I have included one fact. So if everyone's ready, here's 1025 Pokemon and a fact about each. Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur is the third most commonly seen Pokemon in the Pokemon anime, only behind Pikachu and Meowth. This is largely due to the fact that it is one of Ash's first Pokemon, and Ash never evolves as Bulbasaur. Ivysaur. Ivysaur was the first of its evolutionary line to be designed. Venusaur. In Pokemon Red and Blue, if you start with a Charmander, then it becomes impossible to register Venusaur in your Pokedex, as no NPCs use one. Charmander. Charmander's number of fingers has been inconsistent throughout the years. The original sprite had 3 fingers, but Ken Sugimori's art based on the original sprite had 4 fingers. Though it seems now that Charmander consistently has 4 fingers, artwork of the 3-finger Charmander can be found as recently as 2022. Charmeleon. Charmeleon's back sprite in Generation 1 shows it having a white horn protruding from its head. All other art of Charmander shows this horn being the same color as its skin. Charizard. Charizard's original shiny was purple in Generation 2, but this was changed to gray in Generation 3. If you want a purple shiny Charizard, you'll have to Mega Evolve it into Mega Charizard Y. Squirtle. In Pokemon Go, there's a Squirtle wearing sunglasses. This is most likely a reference to the Squirtle Squad from the Pokemon anime. Wartortle. If you evolve a Squirtle with sunglasses, it will turn into a Wartortle with sunglasses. And if you feel cheated by that fact, here's a Wartortle with some weird ears from old promotional art. Blastoise. Though Blastoise cannot learn the move Fly, it can be seen flying in the new Pokemon Snap. The way it flies is a reference to Gamera, a kaiju monster made to compete with Godzilla in the 60s in Japan. Caterpie. Generation 1 games cannot be beaten with just a Caterpie, as it learns no moves to hit Ghost-type Pokemon. And in Generation 1, Struggle was a normal type move and not typeless. Metapod. Metapod being evolved into by a Caterpie and evolving into a Butterfree were originally shown much like real life in the anime. However, in later episodes, it is shown evolving like every other Pokemon. Butterfree. In the anime, we see a pink Butterfree that is a female, which is not a shiny, as the shiny looks like this. Despite the mechanic of gender differences for Pokemon being introduced into the series, we have never seen a pink Butterfree. Weedle. Of all 1025 Pokemon in existence, Weedle is the only one that cannot learn a normal type move. Kakuna. Kakuna, along with the other 3 Cocoon Pokemon, have the lowest base stat total, or BST, of all evolved Pokemon. Beedrill. Mega Beedrill has the highest attack stat and speed stat of any poison type Pokemon. It also has the lowest special attack of any poison type, with its special attack being even lower than a Weedle's. Pidgey. In the background of the stage Saffron City in Super Smash Bros. And Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Pidgey is one of the Pokemon that can be seen in the background. Pidgeotto. Pidgeotto's original English name was Pidgeot, same as its evolution. I always personally felt that Pidgeotto was a better name for the final evolution, and Pidgeot was a better name for the middle evolution. Pidgeot. Mega Pidgeot's special attack is its highest stat, but for base Pidgeot, it's its lowest stat. This is the only Mega Evolution where this is the case. Rattata. Rattata is classified as the mouse Pokemon, despite being named after a rat, which is a completely different animal from a mouse. Originally in Generations 1 and 2, it was the rat Pokemon, which it should have stayed. Raticate. Raticate is evolved from Rattata at level 20. Alolan Raticate is evolved from Alolan Rattata at level 20 as well, but will only evolve at night. Spearow. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, the Pokédex entry for Spearow reads, Spearow has a very loud cry that can be heard over half a mile away. Its high keening cry is heard echoing all around. It is a sign that they are warning each other of danger. Imagine hearing this cry from half a mile away. Fearow. The leader of the Spearows that attacked Ash in episode 1 of the anime returns fully evolved as a Fearow in episode 81. Ekans. In the English Pokemon Red and Blue beta, Ekans was known as Arbo, which is its Japanese name. Arbok. Arbok is one of the Pokemon Jessie of Team Rocket is most well known for using. It was introduced as an Ekans in episode 2 and evolved into an Arbok in episode 31. Pikachu. Pikachu has the most unique Pokemon cards of any Pokemon. It has over 200 unique variants. This is over 100 more than the second place Pokemon, which is surprisingly unknown. Raichu. Raichu is the first Pokemon in the Pokedex to evolve from a stone, specifically the Thunderstone. If a Pikachu is given a Thunderstone in the Alolan region, it will evolve into an Alolan Raichu. Sandshrew. Sandshrew is another Pokemon whose shiny was changed between generations 2 and 3. It was originally gray, but was changed to a lime green. Sandslash. Sandslash is available in every generation of the main series Pokemon games without trading. Nidoran Female. Nidoran Female is the only Pokemon that loses the ability to breed upon evolution, as Nidorina and Nidoqueen cannot breed. Nidorina. Despite not being able to breed, Pokemon Gold's Pokedex entry references it having children. Nidoqueen. Sticking with this evolutionary line and breeding, though Nidoqueen is unable to breed in the game, in the anime, Nidoqueen breeds with a Rhyhorn, making a Nidoqueen baby. Not a Nidoran female, no, a Nidoqueen baby. Nidoran male. Gender was introduced as a mechanic in Generation 2, but Nidoran female and Nidoran male were still considered different Pokemon. Despite being different Pokemon, they can still each produce an egg that will hatch into the other. Nidorino. In the opening cutscene of Pokemon Red and Blue, Professor Oak explains the world of Pokemon and introduces you to them using Nidorino. In this opening cutscene, the cry for Nidorino is actually Nidorina's. Nidoking. In Generation 6, Nidoking and Nidoqueen both had their attack stats raised by 10, taking their base stat total from 495 to 505. Clefairy. Clefairy was originally considered for the mascot of Pokemon, but they ultimately settled on Pikachu. One reason they picked Pikachu over Clefairy was they felt Clefairy would only appeal to girls. Clefable. Clefable and Clefairy have been labeled as the fairy Pokemon since Generation 1. However, the fairy type wouldn't be introduced until Generation 6, 15 years later. Vulpix. Vulpix is based on the Kitsune from Japanese folklore. Kitsune eventually take on a spirit form as they age, which explains Vulpix's ability to learn moves like Hex and Zen Headbutt, which are Ghost and Psychic moves respectively. Ninetales. Of the 242 Pokemon in Pokemon Legends Arceus, Alola Ninetales is the only one that must be obtained through evolution. Jigglypuff. Jigglypuff, alongside Pikachu, were the first two Pokemon to be playable in Super Smash Bros. They both have appeared in every single Super Smash Bros. Game. Wigglytuff. With the introduction of the fairy type in Generation 6, Wigglytuff was retroactively made a fairy type, along with all these other Pokemon. Zubat. Due to the fact that Zubat does not have eyes, Zubat is the only Pokemon whose alpha form in Legends Arceus does not bear glowing red eyes. Golbat. Golbat is almost always seen with its mouth open, making images like this a little unsettling. Oddish. Oddish is one of only two Pokemon given a scientific name in the game. Odium Wondrous. Gloom. Gloom is the only Pokemon with two types that can evolve into a monotype Pokemon, that being Blossom with the use of a Sunstone. Vileplume. Vileplume is based on the Rafflesia, aka the Stinking Corpse Lily. The flower is the largest in the world and smells like rotting flesh. Paris. Paris' signature move is Spore. It, along with Parasect, were the only Pokemon that could learn this move until Generation 3, when the Shroomish line was given it. Parasect. Parasect's Pokedex entry mentions real world China, which is strange considering Pokemon seems to take place in a fictionalized version of Earth, with the names and locations almost always being changed. Venonat. There is a popular fan theory that Venonat was originally meant to evolve into Butterfree. This theory is supported by the fact that they have similar looking antennas, eyes, mouth, and hands. Venomoth. Venomoth's typing is bug poison, but thanks to the fact that it has wings and the fact that it learns Psychic by level up, you wouldn't be alone in assuming this is a flying Psychic type. Just ask Scott's thoughts.
As a kid growing up, I was convinced this thing was a Psychic type because its sprite is given a purple color. Also, when Koga uses it, its most powerful move is Psychic. The truly embarrassing thing is it took me into adulthood when I made a YouTube channel and was called out in the comments for mistyping it that I finally realized Venomoth is a Fire Dark type.
Diglett. The difference between a Diglett and an Alolan Diglett is 3 small hairs on its head made of steel, meaning these 3 small metal hairs are enough to give it the steel typing, which is weird because Blastoise has metal cannons but isn't a steel type. Dugtrio. Dugtrio's description through the years has been inconsistent. Sometimes it is said to be made up of 3 Diglets that came together, and other times it is said to be made up of 1 Diglett that split into 3. Meowth. Meowth is the only Pokemon with 2 regional forms. It is also the only Pokemon with at least 1 regional form and a Gigantamax form. Persian. This is what a standard Persian looks like. This is a shiny Persian. Oh wait, I lied. This is actually the shiny and this is the standard. But who cares, this is one of the worst shinies of all time. Psyduck. Despite having small feet attached directly to its body, Psyduck can somehow learn the moves Low Kick and Low Sweep. I don't feel like it could do much damage with those little legs. Golduck. Golduck is the fastest swimmer of all Pokemon, which is actually quite impressive. Mankey. Mankey is the pig monkey Pokemon, but the only feature a pig it has is its nose. Primeape. Primeape is a Pokemon known for always being mad. The X on its head is actually a throbbing vein. The vein is pretty much always throbbing, meaning it's always angry. Growlithe. With a glitch in Generation 1, a Growlithe can be used in place of a Thunderstone to evolve Pikachu into a Raichu. All you have to do is have Growlithe sent out into battle, and then send Pikachu out and level it up. Arcanine. Arcanine can breed with Hisuian Arcanine to learn the egg move Raging Fury, making it one of the only Pokemon that can breed with itself for an egg move. Poliwag. On the back of the official Pokemon handbook, it reads, "Did you know that the swirls on Poliwhirl's stomach can change direction when it evolves into Poliwag?" But Poliwag actually evolves into Poliwhirl, not vice versa. Poliwhirl. The logo for the Pokemon Center in Tokyo, Japan, featured a Poliwhirl for 9 years until it was replaced by a Piplup in July 2007. Poliwrath. Poliwrath and its evolutionary counterpart, Politoed, shared a base stat total of 500 until Generation 6, when Poliwrath was given a boost to its attack stat by 10, while Politoed's stats remained the same. Abra. In the Pokemon Red and Blue Beta, Abra and Kadabra were originally named Hocus and Pocus. Kadabra. Uri Geller, in his Rally Magician, sued Nintendo claiming that Kadabra was a parody of him. Because of this lawsuit, there is a 20-year gap in the printing of Kadabra cards, with this Kadabra from the Skyridge expansion being printed in 2003, and the next one being printed in 2023 in Pokemon 151. Alakazam. Alakazam's head gets bigger the older it becomes due to gaining more knowledge. Its body actually can't support its head at this point, meaning it has to use its psychic powers to keep it up. Machop. Machop's Pokemon Stadium Pokedex entry reads, "Its whole body is covered with muscles, so it can raise bulges anywhere." That's pretty sus. Machoke. It is said that Machoke can take off the belt it is wearing. If it does, it is said it will become even more powerful. The same is true of its evolution, Machamp. Machamp. Prior to Generation 8, the only way to get a Machamp was by trading. Either trading to evolve a Machoke, or trading for a Machamp. Bellsprout. Bellsprout's Pokedex number is 69. Though most likely not intentional, it is still funny with the shape of its mouth. Weepinbell. Weepinbell is an absolutely savage predator. It will disguise itself as a plant and then surprise its prey by poisoning it to immobilize it. If its prey is too large, it will use its leaves to chop it up into small pieces, presumably while it's alive. Victory Bell. While Weeping Bell and Bellsprout have 2 L's in their names, Victory Bell is only spelled with 1. This is due to the fact that if another L was added, it would exceed the character limit for Pokemon Red and Blue. Tentacool. Tentacool can control Pokemon by touching them with his tentacles. In the anime, it uses this ability on Meowth. Tentacruel. The most tentacles that Tentacool is shown with is 14. Despite that, it is said that he has 80 by many of its Pokedex entry. Here is some fan art that shows what it might look like with 80 tentacles. Geodude. Geodude has the ability to float, but can't have the ability to levitate. This ability would be extremely useful for a Alolan Geodude, as it has a 4 times weakness to ground-type moves. Graveler. Alolan Graveler can be told from its Cantonian counterpart by its angry eyebrows. Same is true of the rest of the evolutionary line. Golem. Both Golem and Alola Golem are evolved by trading a Graveler. In Legends Arceus, in place of trading, you can use a linking cord as an evolutionary item to evolve a Graveler into a Golem. Ponyta. Ponyta is an extremely good jumper. It is said to be able to jump over the Eiffel Tower, meaning it can jump over 1,000 feet into the air. Rapidash. Galarian Rapidash is known as the Unique Horn Pokemon, which is likely due to the fact that it looks a lot like a unicorn. In fact, Unique Horn sounds extremely similar to Unicorn. Slowpoke. Slowpoke has a reggae song released by the official Pokemon YouTube channel, called the Slowpoke Song. Here's a small snippet of the masterpiece.
What's your story, Slowpoke? Slow, slow, slow.
Slowbro. Slowbro is currently the only Pokemon with both a regional form and a Mega Evolution. Magnemite. Magnemite and Magneton were the first Pokemon to have their type change between generations, gaining the newly added Steel type in Generation 2. Magneton. After evolution, Magneton weighs 10 times more than Magnemite, which makes no sense considering it's made up of 3 Magnemites. Farfetch'd. Farfetch'd and its evolution, Surfetch'd, are the only Pokemon with an apostrophe in their name. Once nicknamed, you can never change your name back because you cannot use apostrophes in nicknames in the English games. Doduo. Despite the fact that the Duo has no wings, it can still use fly. In Pokemon Stadium, it flies like this. But I like this artist rendition a lot better. Dodrio. Before Generation 4, All Dodrio's necks were beige. Now beige is the color for the female Dodrio, while black is the color for the male Dodrio. Seal. Though Seal's name is literally Seal, it is categorized as the sea lion Pokemon, which is similar to, but a different animal than a seal. Dugong. Dugong can withstand extreme cold temperatures and even thrive in the cold. This makes sense with two of its abilities, Thick Fat, which reduces damage from ice-type moves, and Ice Body, which heals it in snow or hail. Grimer. In Grimer's debut in the anime, it was extremely stinky, to the point that almost everyone had to cover their nose around it. However, in later episodes when Grimer shows up, they seem to not smell at all. Muck. In Pokedex entries, it is said that Muck has footprints that contain poison, but Muck doesn't have any feet, and it's actually listed as having no footprint in the Pokedex, which makes sense because it has no feet. Shelder. Shelder's tongue is almost always seen sticking out. It is even said to stick out when its shell is closed. Though in Pokemon Crystal, when it's sent out, during its animation, its tongue will retreat into its shell. Cloyster. Cloyster's shell is so tough, it can withstand explosions from bombs and missiles. Ghastly. Ghastly can learn the elemental punch moves, despite not having hands. The closest we ever see to having hands is this screenshot from the anime, but those aren't really hands. Haunter. Haunter has the most cries of any Pokemon in the entire series, with 4 different cries. Gengar. Gengar is the highest special attack of all Ghost and Poison type Pokemon. Onix. Onix is the only Pokemon categorized as a gigantic Pokemon that can evolve. Drowsy. Drowsy's Japanese name is Surapu, which simply means sleep. Hypno. In all of Hypno's in-game sprites and models, it holds the pendulum in its left hand, with the exception of its Pokemon Green sprite where it has it in its right hand. Krabby. Crabhammer is Krabby and Kingler's signature move. It was only learned by them until Generation 3, when Corphish and Crawdont were given the move. Kingler. Gigantamax Kingler has a beard made out of bubbles. These bubbles are extremely alkaline, or basic, the opposite of acidic, which makes his beard extremely deadly. Voltorb. In Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet, Voltorb will explode if the player gets too close. It will even explode if it is shiny, so make sure to catch it quick before it explodes. Electrode. Hisuian Electrode has the signature move, Chloroblast, a 150 power grass move with 95% accuracy. It deals 1/2 of the damage dealt back to Electrode, and is tied with Frenzy Plant for the most powerful grass type move. Execute. Execute's original sprites had the leader much bigger than the other eggs. Now all the eggs appear to be about the same size. Executor. In the Pokemon Trading Cards first expansion set, Jungle, released in 1999, the box art in Japan featured an Executor very similar to a Alolan Executor. Cubone. Cubone is said to be wearing the skull of its dead mother, but this doesn't really follow any logic, as all Cubones hatch from eggs with this skull on their head. In an episode of the anime, a Marowak is even shown protecting its child. Marowak. Throughout the series, Marowak has had 3 signature moves: Bone Club, Bone Meringue, and Bone Rush. It also has the signature ability of Thick Club. Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee has the ability to stretch its limbs out extremely far. This is an ability that is rarely seen. Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan can learn 8 different moves with punch in their name: Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Drain Punch, Mach Punch, Bullet Punch, Mega Punch, and Focus Punch. Lickitung. Lickitun's name is spelled incorrectly in the original Pokerap. It is spelled without the C, which would still be pronounced Lickitung. Coughing. Coughing's skull and crossbow mark has consistently been shown below its face in the Pokemon series. However, in Pokemon Red and Blue, it is shown above its face. Wheezing. Galarian Wheezing can learn more moves that knock it out than any other Pokemon. Self-Destruct, Explosion, Memento, and Misty Explosion, meaning it could have a full moveset of moves that knock it out. Rhyhorn. Up until Generation 6, Rhyhorn and Charizard had the same cry. Rhydon. In the anime, Ash's Pikachu defeats Blaine's Rhydon with electric attacks aimed at its horn, but Rhydon should be immune to electric attacks because it is a ground type. Chansey. Chansey has the largest stat increase by evolution of any Pokemon. Happany's HP stat is 100, and evolves into Chansey, whose HP stat is 250, making the stat increase by 150 by evolution. Tangela. Tangela is a Pokemon shrouded in mystery. Nobody knows what it looks like underneath the vines. Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan is always seen with a child in its pouch that is presumably a baby Kangaskhan. But in the Pokemon world, babies don't grow up, they evolve. So I would assume that the baby Kangaskhan would be a completely different Pokemon. Horsey. Horsey is very clearly based on a seahorse, making it extremely weird that it is listed as the dragon Pokemon. Seadra. Seadra is the only non-poison type Pokemon that can have the ability Poison Point, an ability that can poison an opponent that makes contact with it. Goldeen. Goldeen can be sent out by the Pokeball item in every Super Super Smash Bros. Game. It will simply use Splash and bounce around on the ground, doing no damage. But in the Pokemon games, Goldeen cannot learn Splash. Seaking. In the Pokemon world, fans of Seaking are broken into two categories: Horn Enthusiast and Fin Enthusiast. Staryu. Staryu can learn the move Attract, but it has an unknown gender, so it will have no effect. Starmie. In the Japanese exclusive game Pocket Monster Stadium, Starmie has rubber limbs that stretch. This trait isn't seen in any other Pokemon media. Mr. Mime. Though Mr. Mime's name implies that as a male, it actually has a 50-50 male to female ratio. Scyther. Scyther is the only Pokemon with a split evolutionary line who had both evolutions introduced after its debut, with Scizor being introduced in Generation 2 and Cleaver being introduced in Generation 8. Jinx. Jinx's skin was changed from black to purple due to it being an offensive stereotype. Electabuzz. Electabuzz has been seen with 4, 5, and even 6 fingers. Magmar. Magmar takes part of its inspiration from a booby, which explains why it has a beak and its Japanese name is Boober. And honestly, Boober is a much better name than Magmar. Pinsir. Pinsir uses its pincers to crush and tear other Pokemon in half. If it can't break them in half, it will swing them around and then throw them. Tauros. Tauros has 4 different forms with 4 different type combinations: Normal, Fighting, Fighting Water, and Fighting Fire. Magikarp. Magikarp can be caught both at level 1 and level 100. Gyarados. Gyarados has been a flying type Pokemon since Generation 1, but didn't learn any flying type moves until Generation 7 when it was given the move Bounce. Even now in Generation 9, it can only learn 2 flying moves, Bounce and Hurricane. Lapras. Lapras can learn 3 one-hit KO moves: Sheer Cold, Fissure, and Horn Drill. This is the most of any Pokemon. Ditto. Ditto's stats are 48 across the board, but its special attack stat doesn't matter at all as it never uses it in any calculations. Eevee. Eevee has the least unique letters in its name of any Pokemon, only having 2. It also has the most unique evolutions with 8. Vaporeon. Vaporeon is the only evolution to share no weaknesses with any other evolution. Jolteon. Jolteon and Zapdos' name are extremely similar in Japanese. Jolteon translates to thunders, while Zapdos translates to thunder. Flareon. Flareon is the only evolution with a type advantage over more than one other evolution, being strong against both Leafeon and Glaceon. Porygon. Porygon is the only 3-stage evolution in which leveling up is not used to evolve any Pokemon. Both of its evolutions are trade evolution. Ammonite. Ammonite is obtained by retrieving the Helix fossil. During the very popular event Twitch Plays Pokemon, an event in which Twitch chat controlled Pokemon Red, the chat would consistently open the bag and try to use the fossil, which did nothing. The fossil then became an object of worship to chat, spawning the saying, "Praise Helix." Amistar. Amistar was originally called Cargo in early promotional arts for Pokemon Red and Blue. The name came from the French word escargot. Kabuto. Though Kabuto was originally believed to be extinct, it has been found living in groups unchanged for 3 million years. Kabutops. Before going extinct, it is said that Kabutops was evolving to become a land Pokemon. It would be pretty cool to see this evolution in a future game. Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl is a rock flying type. Although it is a rock flying type, it is used by 2 dragon type specialists, Claire and Lance. This is most likely because Aerodactyl's name is a reference to a winged dragon in Japanese. Snorlax. Snorlax has a great English name, but its German name is even better, Relaxo. Seriously, Relaxo is probably the best name in any language for any Pokemon. Articuno. The 3 legendary birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres, have had Australian beetles named after them. Zapdos. Zapdos, Articuno, and Moltres all have Galarian forms. These Galarian form shinies are all the colors of their Cantonian counterparts. Moltres. Moltres can heal itself by dipping its body into the lava of an active volcano. Who needs a Poké Center? Dratini. Dratini's Pokemon Red Pokédex entry reads, long considered a mythical Pokemon until recently when a small colony were found living underwater. This Pokédex entry is in Generation 1, but mythical Pokemon wouldn't become an official thing until Generation 5. Dragonair. In Pokemon Gold and Silver and their remakes, a woman is willing to trade for a Dragonair, but only a female one. This is the only trade with an NPC in any Pokemon game that requires a Pokemon of a specific gender. Dragonite. Dragonite is the first pseudo-legendary Pokemon. A pseudo-legendary Pokemon is a Pokemon with 600 BST, is the final stage of a 3-stage evolution, and is part of the slow leveling group. Mewtwo. According to the Pokemon Mansion Journal, Mewtwo's birthday is February 6th, meaning Mewtwo shares a birthday with Babe Ruth, Ronald Reagan, and Rick Astley. Mew. Mew is known for being able to learn every single TM, TR, HM, and Move Tutor move. Chikorita. Chikorita has the same voice actor for the original Japanese version of the anime and the English dub of the anime. This is because Chikorita's name is nearly identical in both Japanese and English. Bayleaf. Bayleaf's leaf necklace is often described as having a spicy aroma, while in real life, bay leaves have a bitter and herbal taste rather than spicy. Meganium. Meganium cannot be caught in any of the Pokemon games. This means you must trade or evolve a Bayleaf in order to get one. Cyndaquil. Cyndaquil, along with every other starter Pokemon, has a 7-to-1 male to female ratio. The only exception to this rule for starters is Pikachu. Quilava. Quilava has the ability to withdraw its flames on its back, making it look like this. Typhlosion. Typhlosion's shiny form and its evolutionary line shiny form have purple flames in Generation 2 only. This may have been the inspiration for Hisuian Typhlosion's purple flames. Totodile. In Pokemon Sleep, Totodile and the rest of its evolutionary line sleep with one eye open, just like real crocodiles. Croconaw. A Croconaw without a nickname could not be traded on the global trade system in Pokemon Black and White. This is because its name contains the letter C-O-N, or con, which is considered a curse word in French. Feraligatr. Feraligator's Ruby and Sapphire Pokedex entry says, Feraligatr intimidates its foes by opening its huge mouth. But the Pokemon is unable to have the ability Intimidate, meaning it must not be that intimidating. Sentret. Sentret can balance on its tail to stand taller. It does this to see danger coming from further away. Furret. Furret is based on a ferret. While a ferret is about 1.5 feet long, Furret is about 6 feet long, meaning it's longer than the average human is tall. Hoot Hoot. Hoot Hoot has 2 feet, but only stands on one at a time. It changes which leg it is standing on so fast that it cannot be seen. Noctowl. Noctowl's nickname is the Emperor of the Dark Knights, which is pretty badass. Ladybug. In Generation 2, Ladybug couldn't learn any bug or flying type moves, meaning the only way it could get access to the same type attack bonus, or stab, was with hidden power, which can be any move type. Ledian. You can tell a Ledian's gender by looking at its antenna. Males have longer antennas and females have shorter antennas. Spinarak. Spinarak has 2 black dots and a black line that look like a face on its front and back side. These markings are able to move to create different expressions. Ariados. Ariados will sometimes release its prey with a single thread attached to it. It will then follow the thread all the way back to the prey's nest and feast on them. Crobat. Crobat has the inverse color scheme of Golbat. This is also true of their shiny forms. Chinchou. Chinchou and its evolution, Lantern, are 2 of the only 3 water-electric type Pokemon. The other is Wash Rotom, Lantern. In Pokemon Emerald, Cool Trainer Diane has a Lantern with the move Earthquake, but Lantern cannot learn the move Earthquake in any game. Pichu. There is a special Pichu that can be obtained in Heart Gold Soul Silver. It has a spiked ear and is always female. This Pokemon cannot be evolved, traded, or transferred, meaning it's stuck in this game. Cleffa. Cleffa shares its category with Staryu. They are both the star-shaped Pokemon. Though I will say Cleffa is not as much shaped like a star as Staryu. Igglybuff. As with most Pokemon, Igglybuff's name in Spanish and Italian is Igglybuff, just like its English name. If that's not a good enough fact for you, in German it's Pfefferluff. Togepi. Togepi was the first Generation 2 Pokemon to appear in a Pokemon game. It was featured in Hey You Pikachu, which released in Japan a full year before Generation 2. Togetic. Togetic and its evolution Togekiss are the only fairy flying type Pokemon. Natu. Natu is a flying psychic type Pokemon, but it doesn't actually have the ability to fly. This is reflected in its moveset as it cannot learn the move Fly either. Xatu. Xatu was suggested as a name because the Pokemon Company wanted to have a Pokemon that began with each letter of the alphabet. Mareep. The orange sphere at the end of Mareep's tail acts like a light bulb. It grows brighter the more electricity that is built up by Mareep's wool. Flaffy. In its evolutionary line, Flaffy stands out by having a pink striped tail and ears, while Mareep and Ampharos both have yellow ones. Ampharos. When Ampharos Mega Evolves, it gains the Dragon type. This happens because the process of Mega Evolving awakens ancient dragon blood inside of it. It also grows extremely majestic hair, which might be cooler than becoming a dragon. Blossom. Blossom is based on Hawaiian culture and, more specifically, a hula dancer, though it is not native to the Alolan region, which is based on Hawaii. Meryl. The 2 main abilities that Meryl can have are Huge Power, which doubles its attack stat, or Thick Fat, which halves the damage taken by ice and fire moves. Considering the fact that Meryl is a water type and already resists ice and water moves, Huge Power is the much preferred ability to have in almost every case. Azumarill. Azumarill has the move Drizzle as a move in the Pokemon TCG, but it cannot have the ability Drizzle in the games. Sudowoodo. In Generation 2, Sudowoodo is seen blocking the path in the overworld and must be sprayed with a spray bottle in order to pass. As is the only Sudowoodo in the game, most players either caught it or accidentally knocked it out. But if you run away from the Sudowoodo, you can see it bouncing away. This is a fun but rarely seen animation. Politoed. Politoed has a parasite named after it. This is a species of nematode that live inside real frogs. Hoppip. Hoppip's early design was completely black and had no arms. It's kinda creepy, I think I like its final design more. Skiploom. Skiploom and its evolutionary line are able to fly simply because they are so light. Skiploom in particular is 2 feet tall and weighs only 2.2 pounds. Jumpluff. Jumpluff is the lightest 3rd stage Pokemon, weighing only 6.6 pounds. Apom. Apom's arms are purple subs with no hands or fingers. However, in the anime it is shown holding a banana with its non-existent fingers. Sunkern. Sunkern has the lowest experience yields of any Pokemon. Sunflora. There is a minigame in Generation 9 in which you must collect Sunflora around the city. The Sunflora seen in this game are extremely laggy and look terrible. Yanma. Yanma supposedly can see 360 degrees around its body, but with the location of its eyes and its inability to see through its own body, this would be impossible. Wooper. In Generation 9 you can trade a Paldean Wooper for a standard Wooper. This is the only case in which an NPC trades you the same Pokemon that you are trading it. Granted, it is from a different region. Quagsire. Quagsire is an extremely lazy Pokemon. When it hunts, it simply lays in the water, opens its mouth, and hopes that fish will swim in. Espeon. Espeon is the only evolution without a type advantage over any other evolution. Umbreon. Some of Umbreon's Pokedex entries mention that it has Poison Sweat. This is most likely due to the fact that Umbreon was originally intended to be a poison type and not a dark type. Murkrow. In Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, Murkrow is programmed to learn the egg move Punishment, but the only Pokemon in its egg groups that can learn Punishment are Volibee and Mandibuzz, which are both female-only species and cannot pass down the move. Slowking. Standard Slowking and Galarian Slowking have almost identical stats, with the only difference being 10 points moved from attack to special attack. Mischievous. Mischievous is the only pure Ghost-type Pokemon in the first 2 generations of the Pokemon games. Unknown. Excluding Pokemon that cannot be found shiny at all, finding a specific unknown letter as a shiny is the hardest shiny to find. The odds of getting a shiny are 1 in 4,096, and the odds of getting a specific unknown are 1 in 28, meaning the odds of getting a specific unknown shiny are 1 in 114,688. Wobbuffet. Wobbuffet was banned in many unofficial tournaments prior to Generation 5. This was due to its unique moveset and Shadow Tag ability, making it extremely hard to counter. Girafarig. Giraffarig's original design had a giraffe on its backside as well as its front side, which makes its name being a palindrome, meaning it's spelled the same forward and backward, make more sense. Pineco. Pineco hangs from a tree and eats other bug-type Pokemon like Cutiefly. If something shakes the ground while it's eating, it will fall and explode. Fortress. Fortress's Bug Steel type gives it a resistance to 8 move types and an immunity to 1. It only has 1 weakness in fire, but it is 4 times weak to it. Dunsparce. Since its release in Generation 2, players have long speculated on Dunsparce's evolution. In Generation 9, players were very disappointed to find out that Dunsparce's evolution was just to getting extra body segments. Gligar. In Generation 2, the only way to get a Gligar with a ground-type damaging move was to transfer one from Pokemon Stadium 2. Steelix. In the Pokemon universe, there's a company called Steelix Railcars that presumably produces railcars. Snubbull. In the anime episode titled Snubbull Snobbery, Snubbull's name is misspelled like this. Gramble. Gramble can learn a lot of different types of moves. They can actually learn 16 of the 18 types of Pokemon moves. The only type of moves it can't learn are Bug and Flying. Quillfish. Quillfish was originally known as Puku in the demo for Gold and Silver, and even had an evolution named Shibaya Fugu. Scizor. Scizor, Scyther, and Cleaver all share the same base stat total, meaning that Scizor and Cleaver are the only 2 Pokemon not to gain any base stat total when evolving. Shuckle. Shuckle has the highest defense and special defense of any Pokemon. Because these stats are so high, all of its other stats are extremely low. Heracross. In Generation 2, Megahorn was Heracross's signature move. However, in Generation 3, it can be learned by all these Pokemon. Sneasel. Sneasel has the highest speed of any Pokemon that can evolve. Teddy Ursa. Teddy Ursa is said to love honey in many Pokedex entry. However, in Pokemon Legends Arceus, dazzling honey is not one of its preferred foods. Ursaring. A female can be told apart from a male Ursaring based on the length of its shoulder fur. Though if you didn't know this, you would be excused because this is an extremely small difference. Slugma. Though Slugma was introduced in Generation 2, it can only be caught in Kanto, the location of the Generation 1 games. This is also true for Houndour and Murkrow. However, these two were fixed in the Heart Gold Soul Silver remakes, while Slugma only remained catchable in Kanto. Maycargo. It is said that Maycargo's body can reach 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. For perspective, the surface of the sun is about 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Swinub. Swinub and its evolutionary line are the only ice ground type Pokemon. They are also the only Pokemon that are weak to all three starter Pokemon types: grass, fire, and water. Piloswine. Piloswine's eyes are almost always hidden by its long fur that hangs over them. Underneath the fur are two small black beady eyes. Corsola. Corsola is known as the coral Pokemon. Due to climate change in real life, coral reefs are dying. This is referenced with Corsola's Galarian form being a ghost. Remoraid. Remoraid evolves into Octillery, which is one of the most confusing Pokemon evolutions of all time. Octillery. In most of Octillery's sprites, you can see either 3 or 4 legs. But when you can see all of Octillery's tentacles, you can see that it has 8. Delibird. Delibird can only learn 2 moves via level up: its original signature move Present and Drill Peck. Mantine. Though Remoraid is required for Mantike to evolve into Mantine, many of its in-game sprites and models do not contain the Remoraid. Skarmory. Skarmory has a second tail in its Pokemon Gold and Silver sprite. This second tail was removed for Pokemon Crystal and never returned. Houndour. In one of the early cutscenes in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, we see a group of Houndours being scared off by the Bach legendary Pokemon. Houndoom. Houndoom is the only non-legendary, non-mythical Pokemon that has a unique battle theme. This is heard in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet just a few minutes after the cutscene that was previously mentioned. Kingdra. Kingdra was the only Dragon-type Pokemon introduced in Generation 2, and the 4th overall, with the Dragonite line being the only others. Phanpy. Phanpy has an incredibly strong snout. It can send a full-grown human flying through the air with a single boop. Donphan. Donphan is one of only 3 Pokemon to have a future and past Paradox form in Iron Treads and Great Tusk. The other 2 are Volcarona and Cyclizar. Porygon 2. Porygon 2's name is the same in English, Japanese, French, Spanish, German, Italian, and Korean. Stantler. Stantler evolves into Weirdeer in Pokemon Legends Arceus by using the move Psy Shield Bash 20 times. Smeargle. Smeargle can learn more moves than any other Pokemon thanks to its signature move, Sketch, which it learns every 10 levels. It allows Smeargle to learn the last move used against it in battle, meaning it can learn literally any move. Tyrogue. Tyrogue is the only Pokemon whose evolution is determined by its stats. If Tyrogue has higher attack than defense, it evolves into Hitmonlee. Higher defense than attack, it'll evolve into Hitmonchan. And if those stats are equal, it'll evolve into Hitmontop. Hitmontop. Hitmontop can learn 14 different moves with increased priority. This is the most of any Pokemon. Smoochum. Smoochum's original Gold and Silver sprites have orange hair and dark purple skin. In Pokemon Crystal, it was given blonde hair, but kept the purple skin. Its sprite in Ruby and Sapphire are the coloration we know today. Elekid. Elekid and Magby are often considered counterparts. Both are baby forms of Generation 1 Pokemon that are also considered counterparts. They both evolve at level 30, they both have the same gender ratio, and both have similar abilities in Flame Body and Static. Magby. Magby's Japanese name is Booby. Miltank. Miltank's Pokemon Sun Pokedex entry reads, its milk is high in calories and packed with nutrients. Therefore, if you drink too much of it, you may wind up with a fat body like Miltank's, which I just find funny. Blissey. Blissey can have the highest possible HP at 1,428. This is possible with a level 100 Blissey that has perfect HP IVs, maxed out HP EVs, and is Dynamax level 10. Raikou. Raikou's Pokemon Dex image in the anime is the only stylized art style different from the animes. Entei. Entei can be obtained by getting Entei treats from Snackworths in the DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Suicune. Suicune has the ability to walk on water and purify water. I wonder if purifying water means changing it to wine. Larvitar. Larvitars are born deep underground and must dig their way to the surface. Pupitar. Pupitar moves around by using compressed air from inside its shell, meaning it basically moves by farting. Tyranitar. In Pokemon Gold and Silver, the Golden Boys manga, there is an oversized Tyranitar known as Black Tyranitar. This Tyranitar is absurdly strong and has abilities more like a legendary Pokemon. Lugia. Lugia, along with Ho-Oh, are the only box art legendaries that were not exclusive to their respective games, as you can catch Lugia in Gold and Ho-Oh in Silver. Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh was the first Pokemon revealed for Generation 2, meaning it is the first example of a new Pokemon outside of the original 151. Celebi. Celebi Celebi was originally only available from an event. However, in the virtual console release of Pokemon Crystal on the 3DS, Celebi was available in the main game. Trico has a bunch of small hooks on the bottom of its feet that allow it to stand on walls and ceilings. Grovyle has a species of spiders named after it, the Anaphena, Grovyle, Lin, and Lee. Sceptile is a pure grass type. Mega Sceptile is a grass dragon type. Due to these typings, Mega Sceptile has one more weakness than standard Sceptile. Torchic. The difference between male and female Torchics is a small black dot on their bottom. The location of this dot makes it look like a butthole. Combuskin and its evolutionary line started the trend of firefighting starters. This will continue for the next 2 generations and is the most used dual combination for starters. Blaziken was the first Pokemon designed for Generation 3. Mudkip. Around 2006, a Mudkip meme became very popular. It was called, "So I Heard You Like Mudkips." Marshtomp. Of all 9 middle stage starter water type Pokemon, Marshtomp is the only dual type. The other 8 are pure water types. Swampert has the highest base stat total of any starter Pokemon with 535. Poochyena has the lowest base stat total of all dark type Pokemon at a lowly 220. Mightyena and Poochyena are known as the bite Pokemon, but they cannot have the ability Strong Jaw that increases the damage of biting moves. Zigzagoon was a go-to HM friend in Generation 3. It can learn 3 HMs in this generation: Cut, Surf, and Rock Smash. Once it evolves into Linoon, it can also learn Strength. Linoon. Though its pre-evolution Zigzagoon moves in zigzagging patterns, Linoon runs at 60 miles per hour in only straight lines and only makes 90-degree turns. Wormpole. Once a Wormpole is encountered, it is already determined which evolutionary line it will become. In Pokemon Legends Arceus, there is a mission where you have to catch a Wormpole for a guard. He will always evolve this Wormpole into a Cascoon, even if it was predetermined to be a Silcoon. Silcoon and Cascoon have protruding spikes from their body. However, from Pokemon X and Y forward and in the anime, they appear to be smooth. Beautifly and its evolutionary counterpart Dustox originally had the same base stat total, but in Generation 6, Beautifly receives a 10-point increase to its special attack. Cascoon and Silcoon are nearly identical. They have the same base stats, moveset, and shape. Dustox. In the Pokemon anime, Team Rocket member Jessie has a Dustox. This Dustox falls in love with a shiny Dustox, so Jessie releases it to be with her. Lotad allows Pokemon that can't swim to stand on its lily pads and transports them across water. Lambre enjoys playing pranks. It will often tug on fishing lines and jump out of the water, scaring fishermen. Ludicolo is one of the few Pokemon whose official art depicts a female version of the Pokemon. You can tell it is a female because the stripes are thinner on the female Ludicolos. Seedot. This Seedot's card art is a picture of a clay Seedot. This style of card art is done by Yuki Mori. Nuzleaf is the inspiration for the name of the popular Pokemon challenge run, Nuzlocke. It comes from a webcomic where a Seedot was drawn with the face of the lost character John Locke. The John Locke face Seedot would then evolve into a Nuzleaf, where it was called Nuzlocke, and thus the name of the challenge was born. Shiftry can breed with Raichu, Typhlosion, and some Flora. Something about being able to breed with all 3 of these Pokemon just feels wrong. Tallow. This Tallow card has the move Razor Wind, but neither Tallow or its evolution Swellow can learn this move. Swellow. In Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Time and Explorers of Darkness, a Swellow is on a team with a Wormpole. This Wormpole is constantly fearful that the Swellow will eat it. Their team name is Team Tasty, so I can't really blame the Wormpole. Wingull Pokemon cards are usually pretty cheap. The most expensive one is this one, which costs only $2. Pelipper is tied with Gyarados for the Pokemon that is most used by a gym leader. It is used by 7 different gym leaders. Ralts is the only Pokemon with the exact base stat total of 198. This is the lowest of any Psychic type Pokemon. Kirlia. Male and female Kirlias can evolve into Gardevoir, while only male Kirlias can evolve into Gallade. Gardevoir. In Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Gardevoir's trophy mentions that it can be both male and female despite having a feminine design. This is never brought up in any other Pokemon media. Surskit is based on the real-life insect, the Water Strider, which can walk on water. Masquerain has the ability Intimidate. It has this ability because its wings look like big giant angry eyes that scare off predators. Shroomish is the mushroom Pokemon, along with all these other Pokemon. In Pokemon Go, all the mushroom Pokemon give the most Stardust when caught than any other Pokemon. Breloom and Shroomish have the signature ability, Poison Heal, which makes Poison heal them rather than do damage. Slackoth. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Slackoth is meant to spawn in Province Area 3, but it doesn't due to the fact that there are not enough trees for them to spawn in. Vigoroth. While Slackoth and Slaking both have the ability Truant, Vigoroth has the ability Vital Spirit in its place. Slacking. Slacking has the highest base stat total of any non-legendary, non-mythical Pokemon in its base form. This is obviously balanced out by its ability Truant, which makes it move only every other turn. Nincada. Nincada is the only Pokemon with a higher base stat total than a Pokemon it evolves into, with Nincada having a 266 base stat total and Shedinja having a 236 base stat total. Ninjask. Ninjask has the third highest speed stat of all Pokemon, behind only Regieleki and Speed Form Deoxys. Shedinja. Shedinja's base HP is 1, but unlike other Pokemon, its HP isn't calculated normally. It instead always has 1 HP. If it was actually used for calculations normally, a Shedinja at level 1 would have 11 HP. Whismur. Whismur's eyes are made up of 4 lines in crossing patterns. Though this look might make you assume that Whismur is blind, they can actually see. Loudred. Loudred and the rest of its evolutionary line's main ability is Soundproof. This ability makes the Pokemon with it immune to sound-based moves, such as Sing, Bug Buzz, and Disarming Voice. Exploud. Exploud can learn more sound-based moves than any other Pokemon, learning Echoing Voice, Howl, Roar, Supersonic, Uproar, Screech, Hyper Voice, Boom Burst, Snore, Round, and Disarming Voice. Makuhita. Makuhita has the lowest defense, special attack, special defense, and speed of all fighting-type Pokemon. Even though it is the lowest in 4 of 6 of the possible stats, it still has a higher base stat total than Tyrogue. Hariyama. Hariyama and Makuhita are the only 2 Pokemon that can learn the move Smelling Salts by level up. Azurill. Baby Pokemon are notoriously weak, but Azurill is the weakest of them all, having the lowest base stat total at just 190. Nosepass. Nosepass is the only Pokemon that can evolve by a Thunderstone, but doesn't evolve into an electric type. Skitty. Skitty is 2 foot tall and weighs 24 pounds. Wailord is 47 feet tall and weighs 877 pounds. Yet these 2 are in the same egg group and can breed despite the size difference. This has become a bit of a meme in the Pokemon community. Delcatty. Delcatty and Skitty are the only Pokemon that can have the ability Normalize. This turns every move they use into a normal type move. This also makes these Pokemon struggle against ghost types, as normal type moves can't hit ghost type Pokemon. Sableye. Sableye and Mawile have the lowest base stat total of any Pokemon that can Mega Evolve. Both have a total of 380. Mawile. In the 1.0 release of Pokemon Ruby, Mawile's name is misspelled in the Pokedex. This was later fixed in the 1.1 release. Aron. Aron's shiny form looks like this, and it is much cooler than its original form. Larion. In every game where you can catch a wild Larion, it has a 5% chance of holding a Hard Stone. Aggron. The first game where you can catch an Aggron in the wild is Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. You can do so using the Island Scan feature. Meditite. Meditite and Medicham are the only Pokemon that can have the ability Pure Power, an ability that doubles the attack stat of the Pokemon. Though, to be fair, it is a carbon copy of the ability Huge Power that the Mariline has. Medicham. Mega Medicham has functionally the highest attack stat of any Pokemon. It has base 100, so with Pure Power it is actually 200. Electrike. In the Pokemon TCG, all of Electrike's cards are weak to fighting. This is because in the TCG, fighting encompasses rock, ground, and fighting moves. Manectric. In Generation 4, when a Manectric is sent out into battle, it flashes with an electric glow. Plusle. Plusle has the ability Plus, which does nothing except in double battles. But in a battle with a Pokemon with minus, like Minoon, then it will raise its special attack by 50%. Minoon. Minoon and Plusle are both known as the cheering Pokemon. Volbeat. Volbeat shares its name with a Danish rock band. The rock band's first single was released in January 2022, and Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire released November the same year, meaning the band predates the Pokemon. Illumise. Illumise is obtainable by breeding a Volbeat. This is very similar to the Nidoline. Roselia. Roselia is the only Pokemon to get a pre-evolved form and an evolution in the same generation, with both Badoo and Roserade being introduced in Generation 4. Gulpin. Almost all of Gulpin's body is just a giant stomach. It can digest anything it eats, including scrap metal. Swalot. Gulpin is known as the stomach Pokemon, while Swalot is known as the bag Pokemon. I don't know that I'd want to be known as the bag Pokemon. Carvana. The only way to get a Carvana in Heart Gold Soul Silver was to transfer it from the Pokewalker. The Pokewalker was a pedometer that allowed you to catch wild Pokemon. Sharpedo. In the demo for Ruby and Sapphire shown off at Pokemon Festa 2002, the player starts with a level 12 Sharpedo that has no abilities. Wailmer. In Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Wailmer has a unique surfing sprite, but it doesn't modify travel at all. Wailord. Due to its massive size, Wailord's model is almost always scaled down to fit in battle. The only game where it is full size is Pokemon Battle Revolution. Numel. Numel is such a dim-witted Pokemon, it doesn't even realize when it's being hit. Camerupt. Camerup's speed stat is cut in half when it Mega Evolves, going from 40 to 20. Not that this Pokemon was going to outspeed anything with 40 speed anyway. Torkoal. The only fire Pokemon with a higher defense than Torkoal is Primal Groudon, which really says something about Torkoal's defense stat. Spoink. Many of Spoink's Pokedex entries say how it would die if it stops bouncing. However, in the anime, we see it not bouncing all the time. Grumpig. Grumpig and Spoink's signature move is Magic Coat, but even since Generation 3, they've been able to pass this move down by breeding. Spinda. Spinda can have 4,294,967,296 different patterns of dots. Now imagine shiny hunting for a specific version of this. The odds of finding one would be 17,592,186,044,416. This also means if you catch a shiny Spinda, likely no one else in the world will have the same shiny Spinda. Trapinch. Trapinch has a higher attack stat than its evolved form, Vibrava, and its attack stat is equal to its final form, Flygon. Vibrava. Vibrava is the only middle stage Pokemon to gain the Dragon type upon evolution. Flygon. Flygon and Vibrava are the only Dragon-type Pokemon in the Bug Egg group, which makes it even more frustrating that Flygon isn't a Bug Dragon type, something that fans really wanted. Cacnea. Cacnea's legs are just two large spikes. Cacturn. Cacturn's EX card has the move Psybeam, despite never learning this move in the game. Swablu. Swablu has the most common dual typing of all Pokemon, being Flying Normal type. There is a total of 27 of these. Altaria. Alteria's highest stat is its special defense at 105. However, Mega Altaria's special defense is its fourth best stat, also at 105. Zangoose. Zangoose is rivals with Survivor. They are also the only two Pokemon to have the base stat total of 458. Survivor. Survivor is the only single stage poison type Pokemon. Lunatone. Lunatone and Solrock are the signature Pokemon of the first double battle gym leader, Tate and Liza. Solrock. Solrock and Lunatone have extremely similar stats, with the main difference being their physical and special stats are flipped. Barboach. Of the 9 water ground type Pokemon, only Barboach and Whiscash are in Water A Group 2 and not 1. This makes them the only ground types in said egg group. Whiscash. Whiscash's shiny has an orange underbelly, whiskers, and W from generations 3 to 5. Starting in generation 6, it was changed to more of a salmon color. Corphish. In games where Pokemon can talk, such as Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Corphish will often say, "Hey hey." This is a reference to its Japanese name, Heigani. Crawdon. Crawdon is only used by 2 Pokemon trainers in its premier games. Both these are boss battles in Gym Leader Juan and Elite 4 member Sydney. Baltoy. Baltoy's gender is listed as unknown, but is referred to by masculine pronouns in the game Pokepark Wii Pikachu's Adventure. Claydol. Claydol's body is made out of clay and will melt in the rain. Therefore, it must use its psychic powers to protect itself if it's raining. Lileep. Lileep and Anorith were the first fossil Pokemon introduced after Generation 1. Cradilly. Cradilly, along with all other fossil Pokemon up till Generation 8, have the same gender ratio as starter Pokemon. Anorith. Anorith's art in Pokemon Conquest shows it angry, but this Pokemon doesn't have any eyelids, so in order to look angry, its pupils must change shape. Armaldo. Armaldo is said to be able to punch a hole through a steel slab, which is incredibly impressive considering steel resists both of Armaldo's types. Feebas. Feebas, along with Magikarp, have the largest base stat total increase upon evolving, going from 200 to 540. Melodic. Melodic is intended to be the beautiful Pokemon, evolving from Feebas with high beauty. So what the hell is this? This is not beautiful. Castform. Castform is an extremely small Pokemon. It is only 1 foot tall and weighs only 1.8 pounds. Kecleon. Kecleon was the first Pokemon in the anime to demonstrate that it had an ability. This ability was Color Change, which changes Kecleon's type based on what type of move it was hit by. Shuppet. Shuppet is often seen sticking out its tongue. This is because it feeds off of negative emotions and wants to antagonize people. Banette. Many Pokedex entries say if Banette would open its mouth, its energy would escape. Despite this, the Pokemon is seen with its mouth open in the anime, card game, and Pokemon Ami. Duskull. One of the coolest things about Duskull is it has only a single red eye floating behind the mask. Dusclops. Dusclops is based on the Japanese myth of the Hito Sume Kozo, which is the same myth that this Mario enemy is based on from my last video. Tropius. Tropius has the exact same height and weight as Venusaur. being 6'7" and weighing 220.5 pounds. Chimecho. Chimecho is based on a Japanese wind chime known as a furin. Absol. Absol is said to show up when disaster occurs. This is shown in many Pokemon games. For example, in Diamond and Pearl, it shows up at Lake Valor, where the lake was drained. Wynot. Wynot is the only baby Pokemon that can be found in the wild in Generation 3. Coincidentally, it is also the only baby Pokemon that can't be found in the wild in Generation 4. Snorunt. Snorunt was the first mono ice type Pokemon introduced in the games. Glalie. When Glalie Mega evolves, only its offense and speed stats go up, meaning its defenses don't change at all. So any attack that would knock out a Glalie will knock out a Mega Glalie. Spheal. Spheal moves around by rolling. There's actually a mission in Pokemon Legends Arceus where you must chase a rolling Spheal down a hill. Celio. Celio and its evolutionary line have the signature move Ice Ball. No other Pokemon could learn this move until Generation 6. Walrein. Walrein, its evolutionary line, and Dugong can have the ability Thick Fat. If they do, they will have an 8 times resistance to ice type moves. These are the only Pokemon that can have an 8 times resistance. Clamperl. Clamperl is the only Pokemon that can evolve holding 2 different items, the Deep Sea Tooth and the Deep Sea Scale. Huntail. Though Huntail appears to be the male variation of the evolutionary line, and Gorbis appears to be the female, both have the same odds of being either gender. Gorbis. Gorbis has 2 shells on its chest, similar to a mermaid like Ariel. It looks extremely strange because Gorbis doesn't have breasts. Relicanth. Relicanth shares a lot of similarities with fossil-type Pokemon. It is a dual rock type, has the same gender ratio, and is referred to as the ancient Pokemon by some of its Pokedex entries. Luvdisc. If a Luvdisc is left alone, it will get extremely despondent. This is when Pelipper's will swoop in and try and eat them. Bagon. Bagons long to fly, but are frustrated that they can't. They will often jump off high cliffs and smash their head on rock. Luckily, this doesn't kill them, but actually makes them stronger. Shelgon. Shelgon is the most defensive of its evolutionary line, having 20 more defense than its final evolution, Salamence. Salamence. Salamence is one of 3 Pokemon that has a Mega Evolution and a Paradox relative. The other 2 are Gardevoir and Gallade. Beldum. Beldum and its evolutionary line have the lowest known catch rate. It's so low it's tied with legendaries like Mewtwo. Metang. Metang and its evolutionary line cannot learn any moves by breeding, as it can only breed with a Ditto. Metagross. Metagross was introduced in Generation 3 alongside Salamence, making this the only generation to introduce 2 pseudo-legendary Pokemon. Regirock. Regirock was the first legendary Pokemon to be shown captured in the Pokemon anime. Regice. Regice, along with Regirock and Registeel, required reading Braille in order to obtain them in Generation 3. This led to many players, including me, not even knowing they existed in the game. Registeel. Registeel had its original sprite changed in certain releases of the game, as its original sprite looked very similar to a Nazi salute. Latios. Latios and Latios are the only Pokemon that come from a Pokeball in Super Smash Bros. In which 2 Pokemon are summoned. Latios. All Latios are males, the opposite is true of Latias, who are all females. Kyogre. Kyogre's stats are the inverse of Groudon's, with the special and physical stats being flipped. Groudon. Groudon, along with Kyogre, are the only Pokemon with primal forms. Rayquaza. Rayquaza is the only Pokemon that can Mega Evolve without a Mega Stone. This also means it is the only Mega Pokemon that can be holding an item that isn't a Mega Stone. Jirachi. Jirachi will hibernate for 1,000 years and only stays awake for 7 days at a time. Other than waking up naturally, it can also be awoken by the Song of Purity. Deoxys. Deoxys has 4 forms it can change between. When it changes, the only stat that doesn't change is its HP. Turtwig. Turtwig is the only grass starter that starts with a water move, in Withdrawal. It's also the only grass starter that learns any water move by level up. Grotle. The only games where you can catch a Grotle are Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, and Legends Arceus. Torterra. A standard Torterra is about 7 feet tall. In the Pokemon movie Detective Pikachu, we see giant Torterras the size of mountains. Chimchar. While Chimchar is asleep, the fire on its butt goes out. Monferno. Monferno's Pokedex entry for Scarlet and Violet shows it in a cold-covered region. Even though it cannot be caught in this location, its pre-evolution Chimchar can be. Infernape. Infernape is based on the Monkey King, aka Sun Wukong, the main character of the Chinese epic Journey to the West. This is the same character that Goku from Dragon Ball Z, Wukong from League of Legends, and many other pop culture characters are based on. Piplup. Piplup was voted the most popular starter from Sinnoh, and the 4th most popular Pokemon from the region overall. Prinplup. The only way Prinplup can know Pound is if it remembers it when it evolves from Piplup. Empoleon. Empoleon is the only Water Steel type Pokemon. Starly. Starly is tied with other flying Pokemon for the lowest defense, special attack, and special defense among all flying Pokemon. Staravia. This Staravia card from Majestic Dawn has the move Drill Peck, but Startavia and its whole evolutionary line can't learn this move. Staraptor. Staraptor is used by Larry in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Larry is both the normal type gym leader and the flying type Elite Four member. Staraptor is the only Pokemon on both his Elite Four team and his gym team. Bidoof. As a meme, Bidoof has become known as a god Pokemon, leading to many amazing fan arts like these. Bibarel. Though Bibarel is no god like Bidoof, it is the only Pokemon with the normal water typing. Kricketot. Cricketot's cry sounds very similar to a xylophone. Kricketune. Other than Shedinja, Kricketune has the lowest base stat total of any fully evolved Pokemon. Shinx. Due to a low quality leak, the original name for Shinx was thought to be Sphinx. Luxio. Because Luxio's national Pokedex number is 404, it is shown on the official Japan Pokemon site when you get a 404 error. Luxray. Luxray and its evolutionary line all have unique base stat totals that no other Pokemon has. Bidoo. Bidoo hasn't had a new Pokemon card released since 2008. This is currently the longest active drought for a Pokemon. Roserade. Roserade is one of only 2 third stage Pokemon that can be caught at level 1. The other is Porygon Z. Cranidos. Cranidos and its evolution, Rampardos, are the only monotype fossil Pokemon. Rampardos. Rampardos has the highest attack stat of any Pokemon that is not legendary, mythical, and ultra beast, or mega evolved. Which sounds like a lot of caveats, but basically, it has the highest attack of all basic Pokemon. Sheldon. Sheldon will polish its face by rubbing it against tree trunks. Bastiodon. If Bastiodon is given a ring target, an item that removes immunities, it will only take 1/2 damage from poison moves still thanks to its rock typing. Burmy. Although Burmy is confirmed to have feet somewhere, it is still listed as having no footprint. Wormadam. Wormadam has 3 forms, and all of their shinies are extremely underwhelming. The only thing that will change is their face and their stem. Mothim. Mothim will evolve from a male Burmy with any cloak. Combee. Combee is the only Pokemon with a gender-dependent evolution that has an aesthetic difference between their genders, with the female having this red mark. Vespiquen. Vespiquen has 3 signature moves: Attack Order, Defend Order, and Heal Order. For all 3 of these moves, Vespiquen orders bees to help her in battle. The animation for this shows bees that aren't Pokemon, but instead regular bees. Pachirisu. Pachirisu is the only Pokemon that can learn Hyper Fang and isn't a normal type Pokemon. Weasel. In the anime, Dawn catches up Weasel, but trades it to Ash for his Apom, because Weasel is more interested in battling than Pokemon contests. Floatzel. Floatzel is the signature Pokemon of the gym leader Crasher Wake. It is on almost every single one of his teams and is almost always his ace. Cherubi. Cherubi's Pokedex number is 420, and its smaller head looks chill AF.
Smoke weed every day.
Cherim. In the mainline series of games, Cherim's change in form, being from the sunlight, does not change its base stats. This is instead done by its ability, Flower Gift. This means if a Pokemon uses a move like Simple Beam to change Cherim's ability, then it will remain in its Sunshine form, but its stats will be identical to its Overcast form. Shellos. Shellos has the shortest Pokedex entry of any Pokemon. It is in Heart Gold Soul Silver and reads, its shape and coloration vary depending on its habitat. Gastrodon. Gastrodon was accidentally released in Pokemon Go 18 days early. It was quickly removed and released alongside other Generation 4 Pokemon on the correct day. Ambipom. In order to evolve an Apom into an Ambipom, you must level up Apom while it knows the move Double Hit, which makes a lot of sense. Driftloom. Driftloom's Pokedex Pearl entry reads, it tugs on the hands of children to steal them away. However, it gets pulled around instead. However, the Japanese version says that it will take them to the lands of the dead, which is a bit more grim. Drifblim. Every Pokemon is in one of 6 experience groups that determine how much experience it needs to level up. Drifblim and Drifloon are the only Pokemon not from Generation 3 in the fluctuating experience group. Baneri. Baneri is the only Pokemon that isn't a legendary, mythical, or ultra beast that has a base starting friendship of 0. Lopunny. Lopunny has become memed as the sexy Pokemon, making it unsafe to search for fan art of this and not get unsavory results. Miss Magius. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, the gym leader Iona has Miss Magius that she terrestrialized into an electric type. Thanks to Miss Magius' Levitate ability, it means that this Pokemon has no weakness. Honchkrow. 7 of the 11 moves that Honchkrow learns by level up are dark type moves. You know, you're a flying type too. You can learn more than just wing attack. Glammeow. Glammeow is known as the catty Pokemon. The word catty is defined as deliberately hurtful in one's remarks, spiteful, or relating to cats. It definitely relates to cats. Perugly. Perugly's speed stat is 112, making it faster than all these legendary Pokemons, which is just silly considering it's an overweight cat. Chingling. In order to evolve Chingling into Chimecho, you must level up at night with High Friendship. This is the same method for evolving Eevee into Umbreon. Stunky. Stunky is the first Pokemon introduced with a type combination Poison Dark. This is an extremely strong defensive typing, having only one weakness to ground, being immune to psychic moves, and resisting poison, ghost, grass, and dark moves. Skuntank. Though it is a poison type Pokemon, the only way it can learn the poison type move Smog is by breeding with a fire Pokemon. Bronzor. In Pokemon Mystery Dungeons, Explorers of Time, and Explorers of Darkness, Bronzor has both of its abilities, Levitate and Heat Proof. This combined with the fact that this game is pre-Generation 6 means that Bronzor had no weaknesses in these games. Bronzong. Bronzong learns Rain Dance by level up, but doesn't learn any moves or have any abilities that benefit from rain. Bonsly. Bonsly is one of the Pokemons that can hop out of ore deposits in Legends Arceus. Mime Jr. Mime Jr. has the lowest HP stat of all Fairy and all Psychic type Pokemon. Happiny. Happiny is tied with its evolution Chansey for the lowest attack and defense stat among all Pokemon. Chatot. Chatot could originally have custom battle cries recorded by the player, but this feature was quickly removed as players would use it to record inappropriate things. Spiritomb. Spiritomb is heavily associated with the number 108. It is said to be made up of 108 spirits. Its Sinnoh Pokedex number is 108. Both of its defense stats are 108. It weighs 108 kilograms. It is found in Route 108 in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And in Pokemon Legends Arceus, it is found at the end of a mission where you collect 108 Wisp. Gible. Gible and its evolutionary line were introduced in reverse order in the anime. Gabite. Like many dragons of legend, Gabite hoards treasure in its nest. This makes it a common target for thieves. Garchomp. Garchomp is shown to be able to fly in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but it isn't a flying type, can't have the ability Levitate, and doesn't learn the move Fly. Munchlax. Munchlax weighs 231 pounds, but can be seen being carried by Max in the anime on his back, meaning Max is absolutely jacked. Riolu. Riolu evolves into Lucario during the day with high friendship. The same method is used to evolve Eevee into Espeon. Lucario. In the fighting game Pokken Tournament, Lucario has the fewest moves of any Pokemon, only having 4. These moves are Force Palm, Bone Rush, Extreme Speed, and Aura Sphere. Hippopotas. Hippopotas can learn 5 moves via breeding. Hippowdon. Hippowdon can swim through sand. This is such an important part of the Pokemon that is even featured in the official art by Ken Sugimori. Skorupi. Skorupi is the only Pokemon to lose its bug typing when it evolves. Drapion. Drapion has a Pokemon card where it has the move Stomp and a card where it has the move Body Slam. Neither of these moves can be learned by Drapion in the game. Croagunk. Croagunk's 2D models have its cheeks colored pink, but in its 3D models they are orange. Toxicroak. Female Toxicroaks have smaller vocal sacs than male Toxicroaks. Carnivine. Carnivine is the only Pokemon with the ability Levitate that would already resist the ground type if it didn't have this ability. Finneon. Finneon can use its large tail fins to propel itself out of the water. This is probably why it learns to move Bounce at level 45. Luminion. Luminion is a very colorful and pretty Pokemon. However, its shiny is extremely dull and boring. Mantike. Many of Mantike's Pokedex entries mention how its pattern differs based on the region. However, we have seen this Pokemon in many different regions and it has always had the same pattern. Snover. Snover has one of the worst defensive type combinations in Grass Ice. It is tied for the most weaknesses of any Pokemon at 7, including a 4 times weakness to fire. Abomasnow. Abomasnow is the number 1 ranked Pokemon, if you rank them in alphabetical order. Weavile. Weavile has an extra finger on its hand and an extra toe on its foot compared to its pre-evolution Sneasel. Magnezone. The reason that Magnezone and its evolutionary line have red and blue at the end of their magnets is because man-made magnets are often made this way to tell the difference between the poles. Licky Licky. Lickitung evolves into Licky Licky by leveling up and knowing the move Rollout. However, Lickitung has been able to learn the move Rollout since Generation 2, meaning it should have been able to evolve into Licky Licky before this. But obviously that evolution didn't exist, so it couldn't. Rhyperior. Rhydon evolves into Rhyperior while holding the Protector. The Protector is purely an evolutionary item and has no function in battle. Tangrowth. Tangrowth's Japanese name is Majumbo, which I think is a much better name than Tangrowth. Electivire. Electivire's signature ability is Motor Drive. This ability will stop all incoming electric attacks and raise its speed by 1. Magmortar. Magmortar's Japanese name is Booburn, meaning the full evolutionary line is Booby, Boobur, and Booburn. Togekiss. Togekiss has an extremely underwhelming shiny. It goes from white to eggshell white. Yanmega. In Black 2, White 2, Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon, wild Yanmegas have a 5% chance of carrying the wide lens item. I find this extremely weird as this item appears to be man-made. Is there someone going around handing them out to these Pokemon? Leafeon. Eevee evolves into Leafeon by leveling up next to the Moss Rock. Starting in Generation 8, you can use a Leaf Stone instead. Glaceon. Glaceon's Japanese name is Glacia. One of Hoenn's Elite Four members is also named Glacia in English. Gliscor. Though one of Gliscor's main features is its big meaty claws, it can't learn the move Vice Grip, which it feels like it should. Mamoswine. Mamoswine is a playable character in the MOBA Pokemon Unite. One of Mamoswine's skins even has it in a tuxedo, which is amazing. Porygon Z. Since no leveling up is required to evolve Porygon to Porygon 2 and Porygon 2 to Porygon Z is the only third stage Pokemon that can be level 1 after evolving twice. Gallade. One of the abilities Gallade can have is Sharpness, an ability that increases the strength of slicing moves. This is an extremely powerful ability on Gallade as it can have 11 different slicing moves. Of these 11 moves, they cover 7 different types. Probopass. Probopass's mustache is made out of a material called Iron Sand. Iron Sand is metallic, which is why it sticks to the steel type Probopass. Dusk Noir. Dusk Noir is one of the most defensive ghost type Pokemon. The only ghost type Pokemon with a higher combination of defensive stats is Aegislash in its shield form only. Frostlass. Frostlass can learn the move Block by breeding with Probopass. I picked this as a fact because I thought they made a cute couple. Rotom. Rotom is a Pokemon that can take the form of many electronic items. In the Pokemon world, they are used as Pokedexes, phones, drones, and even bikes. Uxie. Uxie and the other Lake Guardians are the only Pokemon that can learn the move Mystical Power. A 70 power, 90 accuracy psychic type move that raises both the user's attack stats or both the user's defense stats, depending on which one is lower. Mesprit. Mesprit and the other Lake Guardians have the highest base friendship of any legendary Pokemon. Azelf. Azelf was originally not able to learn any moves from the move Reminder, despite having 13 moves that should have been able to be learned this way. Dialga. Dialga and Palkia are the only Pokemon that can be caught in every version of the Pokeball. This is because they are the only Pokemon that can be caught in the Origin Ball in Pokemon Legends Arceus. Palkia. At the end of one of Palkia's roars from the anime, the roar of Mecha King Ghidorah can be heard. This is a kaiju from the 1991 Toho film Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Heatran. Heatran has the most double resistances of any Pokemon, with 5. They are Steel, Bug, Grass, Ice, and Fairy. This is because it is the only Steel Fire type Pokemon. Regigigas. Regigigas is the only legendary giant, aka Regi Pokemon, that doesn't have its typing referenced in its name. Giratina. Due to a bug in Pokemon Legends Arceus, using Giratina's signature move, Shadow Sneak, with a shiny Giratina in Origin form will cause the game to crash. Thanks, Game Freak. Cresselia. Cresselia's body type was originally listed as this, which feels so wrong, but now it is listed as this, which feels better but is still wrong. Phione. Phione is the only mythical Pokemon that can be obtained by breeding. Manaphy. Manaphy can breed to produce a Phione, but Phione does not evolve into Manaphy. Darkrai. Darkrai is part of the lunar duo with Cresselia, which is a fact I would forgive you for not knowing, as these two appear to have nothing to do with each other. Shaman. In Generation 4 and 5, it is impossible to use Shaman Skyform in online play. This is because it would only let you use Pokemon from your box, and Shaman will revert to its ground form once put in a box. Arceus. Excluding alternative forms such as Mega Evolutions and Primal forms, Arceus has the highest base stat total at 720, which makes sense because it is the god of Pokemon. Victini. Victini's Pokedex number in the Unova Pokedex is 000. This is the only time in a regional Pokedex when a Pokemon was listed before the starters. Snivy. Before Snivy was given an English name, it was guessed by English-speaking Pokemon fans that its name was Smugleaf. This would even go on to be a meme and even be featured in the official Nintendo magazine in Australia and the UK. Servine. Servine has never been able to be caught as a wild Pokemon. The only ways to obtain it have been by trade or evolution. Serperior. Though it's pre-evolution, Servine cannot be caught in the wild. Serperior can be caught in the wild in Sun and Moon via the Island Scan feature. Tepig. Tepig in its evolutionary line's signature move is Heat Crash. They were the only Pokemon that could learn this move until Generation 8 when it was made a TR. Pignite. Before Tepig was given an English name, fans guessed that its name would be Pignite. Either this is a complete coincidence or they took the name for this Pokemon from the fans. Emboar. In the crossover game Pokemon Conquest, this is the official art for Emboar, which is drawn from a very strange perspective and really shows off Emboar's butt. Oshawott. Oshawott, along with the other Unovan starters, were revealed as silhouettes on an episode of Pokemon Sunday, a Japanese television program. Dewott. Dewott wields the scallops on his pants as weapons. Samurott. Samurott, Superior, and Emboar, the final evolutions of the Unovan starters, all share the same base stat total, 528. They are the only 3 Pokemon with its exact base stat total. Patrat. By level up, Pet Rat does not learn any special moves. It only learns physical and status moves. Watchog. Watchog is the only evolved Pokemon with the highest possible catch rate of 255. Lillipup. Lillipup's footprint is similar to a circle, but this is extremely strange considering its foot has toes. Herdier. Herdier and its evolutionary line haven't been in a mainline Pokemon game in 5 years. They weren't in Scarlet and Violet, Legends Arceus, or Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. In order to get one, you'd have to go all the way back to Sword and Shield. Stoutland. Stoutland is tied with Beedrill for the lowest special attack of any Pokemon that has evolved twice. Purloin. Purloin is shown to be standing on all 4 legs in its original sprite, Pokemon Home, and official artwork. But in all of its 3D models, it is shown standing on just its hind legs. Liepard. Liepard's name is a combination of the word leopard and lie, which goes along well with its dark typing. Pansage. Pansage's leaves can cure exhaustion. This is shown in the Pokemon Adventures manga. Simisage. Simisage's hairstyle is based on a pompadour, the kind of haircut that Elvis and Danny Zuko had. Pansear. Pansear, along with the other elemental monkeys, all evolve via stones, either the Fire Stone, Water Stone, or Leaf Stone. Simisear. Like many other stone evolutions, Simisear has 4 level 1 moves and learns no other moves by level up. Pampor. Pampor, along with the other elemental monkeys, have the main ability Gluttony, an ability that allows the Pokemon to eat certain berries at a higher HP than usually required. Simipour. Simipour's original official artwork featured it having a completely blue tail, which differed from its look in every other type of media. That is why it was switched to having the tan tail with the blue tip. Munna. In Pokemon Red, Blue, and Fire Red and Leaf Green, an NPC wishes there was a Pokemon with a pink floral pattern. This description fits Munna. Musharna. Musharna is shown to be able to create illusions in the Pokemon games. In Black and White, it creates an illusion of Ghetsis that it uses to scare off Team Plasma grunts that were bullying a Munna. Pidove. Pidove is based on a dove, which is a bird known to represent peace and love. This is most likely why it has a heart on its chest. Tranquil. Tranquil is able to find its trainer no matter how far away it is. I would love to put a Tranquil on Mars and see if it finds its way home. Unpheasant. Unpheasant weighs 64 pounds, whereas the bird it's based on, a pheasant, weighs 5 pounds. Blitzel. Wild Blitzels in Black and White have a 50% chance of having a cherry berry as their held item. Zebstrika. Zebstrika is the ace Pokemon of the gym leader, Alessa. Roggenrola. Roggenrola shares lots of similarities with Geodude. Both are rock-type Pokemon, both can have the ability Sturdy, both evolve at level 25, and both reach their final form evolution by trade. Boldore. Boldore can learn only 4 types of damaging moves: Rock, Ground, Steel, and Fighting. Gigalith. Gigalith was first revealed on a Japanese show called Ohasuda, the Super Kids Station. Woobat. Cairo, a character in Zoroark Master of Illusions, wears a baseball cap with a Woobat depicted on it. The character wearing this hat was the first time that Woobat was hinted to even exist. Swoobat. It's obvious that Swoobat's nose is intended to be a heart, but did you know the end of its tails are meant to form a heart as well? This is made very obvious by its Pokemon Home model. Drillbur. Drillbur spins like a drill and digs at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, which is an absurd speed to move at while displacing dirt. Excadrill. Excadrill is the only Pokemon that can learn 2 one-hit KO moves by level up. These moves are Horn Drill and Fissure. Audino. Due to Audino's high experience yields, it was often used as an experience farm by players in Black and White, Black 2 and White 2, and Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire. Timber. When Timber hatches from an egg, it comes out with the piece of wood it's carrying. However, the piece of wood is not part of the Pokemon. Girder. In the Pokemon anime, Girder's Pokedex entry reads, Girder, the muscular Pokemon, and the evolution of Timber. Girder trains its muscles by carrying a steel beam with its amazing strength. Even professional wrestlers can't move it. I find it very strange that a Pokedex entry would reference professional wrestling. Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr's evolutionary line shares many similarities with Machamp's evolutionary line. Both lines are pure fighting, with attack being their highest stat. Both have below average speed. Both have the same gender ratio. Both are 3-stage evolution. Both reach their final evolution by trade, and all their stages have the same base stat total. Timpole can create a high-pitched sound by vibrating its cheeks. Palpitoad. Palpitoad is a stage of a frog's life where it's still a tadpole but has grown hind legs. Seismitoad. Seismitoad is a water ground type, a type combination it shares with 8 other Pokemon. This type combination only has one weakness to grass, but it is a quad weakness. Throw. Throw is the only fully evolved fighting type Pokemon that cannot learn the move Close Combat, which explains why he looks so grumpy. Sock. A wild sock has a 5% chance of having a black belt item, though it is always wearing a black belt 100% of the time. Swaddle. Swaddle pulls its leaf hood over its head to hide from predators. Swadloon. In the Pokemon Adventures manga, a Swadloon can be seen wearing a hard hat, which I find extremely cute. Leavanny. Returning to the world of crappy Pokemon shinies, Leavanny's is terrible. Venipede. Venipede's Pokemon Sword Pokedex entry reads, Venipede and Sizzlipede are similar species, but when they meet, a huge fight ensues. Despite this, Venipede is in the same age group as Sizzlipede. I guess it's true what they say. Love and hate are two sides of the same coin. Whirlipede. Whirlipede can roll at over 60 miles per hour. Scolipede. Scolipede is the Megapede Pokemon. A Megapede is a fictional oversized centipede. This creature exists within the Dungeons and Dragons world. Cottonee. If you do the in-game trade for Cottonee in Black 2 and White 2, it will be holding a power weight. But honestly, I'm not sure where it was wearing it. Whimsicott. Unova has its own horoscope, and Whimsicott is representative of April. Petalil. Petalil is a counterpart to Cottonee. They both evolve with a Sunstone. They are found in opposite games in Generation 5 and 7. They have extremely similar movesets, and they can be traded for each other with NPCs in White 2 and Black 2. Lilligant. Lilligant is primarily a special attacker, while Hisuian Lilligant is primarily a physical attacker. Basculin. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Basculin's catch rate was changed from 25 to 190, making it the only Pokemon to have its catch rate changed by a patch. Sandile. Sandile is found with the black glasses item 5% of the time in the wilds of Sun, Moon, Sword, and Shield. And honestly, Sandile really pulls off the sunglasses look. Krokorok. Now, I've shown you a lot of bad shinies, but Krokorok has an absolutely amazing shiny. The shiny even looks more confident somehow. Crocodile. Ash has a crocodile in the anime that wears sunglasses throughout the series, even as its pre-evolutions. When it doesn't have the sunglasses on, it actually feels self-conscious. Darumaka. Darumaka evolves into Darmanitan by a level up, while Galarian Darumaka evolves into Galarian Darmanitan with an Ice Stone. Darmanitan. Darmanitan and Galarian Darmanitan have the same stats. However, their Zen modes have very different stats. Maractus. Water Absorb and Storm Drain are two of Maractus's possible abilities. This is based on a cactus's real-life ability to store water. Dwebble. Dwebble was first seen by fans in the Pokemon Black and White anime intro. Crustle. Though Crustle is always seen with a shell on its back in the game, in the anime it can be seen naked. Scraggy. Scraggy gets more respect amongst other Scraggies the baggier their pants are. Scrafty. Scrafty is able to pull the skin around its neck over its head like a hood. Sigilyph. Sigilyph can learn the move Gravity by level up. The move takes away immunities to ground moves. This means Sigilyph will take away its own immunity. Yamask. Yamask are Pokemon that used to be humans. Some even have memories of the person they used to be. Cofagrigus. Cofagrigus and Yamask have the signature ability, Mummy. This ability triggers when the Pokemon is hit with a contact move, replacing the Pokemon that hit its ability with Mummy. Turtoga. The only place you can catch a wild Turtoga is in the Frigid Sea as part of the expansion pack for Sword and Shield. Caracosta. Caracosta will eat 100% of the prey it catches. The shell and bones it eats are used to strengthen its own shell. Archon. Archon and its evolution, Archeops, have the signature ability, Defeatist, an ability that lowers the Pokemon's attack when it reaches 50% HP. Archeops. Archeops has the highest base stat total of any fossil Pokemon. This is obviously balanced out by its defeatist ability. Trubbish. Trubbish shares a lot of similarities with Coughing and Grimer. All three are based on types of pollution, they are all pure poison type Pokemon, and all have the same base stat total. Garbodor. Garbodor's left arm is held together by rebarb. Zorua. Standard Zorua is a dark type. Its Hisuian form was a normal ghost type. The normal ghost typing is unique to Hisuian Zorua and Hisuian Zoroark. This typing makes them the only Pokemon that is immune to all of their types. Zoroark. Zoroark is what is known as Furry Bait. Not a good enough fact? Okay, fine. Zoroark's signature move is Night Daze, an 85 power, 95% accuracy dark move that has a 40% chance of lowering the target's accuracy. Minccino. Minccino's level up moveset consists of 2 fairy type moves and 12 normal type moves. Chinchino. When Pokemon games begin, they usually introduce you to a Pokemon to give you an example. Chinchino is the only Pokemon used in this type of cutscene that is fully evolved. Gothita. Gothita is based on a child dressed in the Gothic Lolita fashion style. This makes a ton of sense with its name, Gothorita. Several of Gothorita's Pokedex entries mention how it kidnaps children. Why are there 2 Pokemon that kidnap children? Gothitelle. If you thought the last Pokedex entry was dark, how about this one? a criminal who was shown his fate by Gothella went missing the same day and was never seen again. Solosis. Solosis can survive in any environment thanks to the special liquid that surrounds its body. This means it can survive at the North Pole, at the bottom of the ocean, or on the sun. Duosion. Duosion and its evolutionary line are the only Pokemon that can learn the move Thunder, but not the move Thunderbolt. Reuniclus. In each game, Reuniclus's green switches slightly. It is never exactly the same. Ducklet. Ducklet was not available for 4 straight games, starting with the Let's Go series. It was originally not in Scarlet and Violet either, but was added in the Hidden Treasure DLC. Swanna. Swanna's official artwork makes it look like a mother that just had their kid do something wrong. Okay, technically that's not a fact. For a fact, Swanna can fly for thousands of miles without rest. Vanillite. Vanillite can be bald, which is kind of like it being naked. Gladleys will also eat Vanillites, and I can't blame them, they look delicious. Vanillish. Vanillish is a Pokemon that predates humans in the Pokemon world, meaning ice cream cones were based on it and its evolution, not vice versa. Vanillux. Vanillux is the only ice-type Pokemon with multiple faces. Deerling. Deerling has 4 forms based on the seasons. These forms are purely aesthetic and have no effect on the Pokemon in battle. Sawsbuck. Generation 5 is the only generation of Pokemon which has the season mechanic. So this is the only generation where a Sawsbuck can change forms. Emolga. Emolga has a McDonald's promotional card that has the golden arches in the corner of the art. Carablast. Carablast evolves by trading it for Shelmet. Carablast and Shelmet are the only Pokemon that must be traded for a specific Pokemon in order to evolve them. Escavalier. There is said to be a famous painting in the Galar region of Escavalier dueling a Sirfetch'd, but sadly it is not seen in the games. Luckily, some awesome fans have depicted it for us. Fungus. Fungus is tied with these Pokemon as the shortest grass-type Pokemon. Amoonguss. Amoonguss has a pattern that looks like a Pokeball. Its shiny form's color is meant to look like a Master Ball. Frillish. Though Frillish has a very unique look based on their gender, they are functionally the same gameplay-wise outside of moves like Attract. Jellicent. Because Jellicent male and Jellicent female have completely different sprites and models, they also have completely different shinies, and both of them are absolutely amazing. Alomomola. Alomomola's name is a palindrome, meaning it is spelled the same forward and backward. Joltik. Joltik is based on the jumping spider, a real-life spider that manages to look cute as hell. Galvantula. Galvantula's colors in the anime have a distinct difference from the official artwork and in-game models. Ferroseed. Ferroseed is a thorn seed Pokemon. For a Pokemon based on a seed, it is rather large. It is 2 feet tall and weighs 41 pounds. Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is tied with the Ultra Beast and fellow grass steel type Karakana for the highest defense of all grass types. Clink. Clink's face and gear teeth spin at different speeds. If you can't tell, don't worry, I had to stare at this for like 2 minutes just to notice. Clang. Clang can learn more electric moves than it can steel moves, despite being a pure steel type Pokemon. Klinklang. Klinklang has 2 signature moves, Gear Grind and Shift Gear. To this day, it is the only Pokemon that can learn Grind Gear, but Shift Gear can be learned by a lot of Pokemon now. Tynamo. Thanks to always having the ability Levitate, Tynamo and its evolutionary line are the only Pokemon in their base form that have no weakness. Electric. Electric and its whole evolutionary line are categorized as this shape, which feels like an absolute travesty considering that this is a shape option as well. Electros. In Scarlet and Violet, there are 3 different Pokedexes. Electros, its evolutionary line, and Oricorio are the only Pokemon in all 3 of these. Elgyem. Elgyem is based on aliens from pop culture, mainly greys, but it also has other references. The round colored fingers on its hand resemble the colorful faces of the invaders in the 1993 film War of the Worlds. Behem. Behem's body is intended to look like a trench coat, which is the exact same reference as this Rick in a trench coat. Litwick. Litwick's candles only burn when it is absorbing life force from other Pokemon or people. Lampent. Lampent can sense when someone is about to die, and will visit them to steal their spirit. Chandelure. In the 2020 Pokemon of the Year event, Chandelure was voted the most popular Pokemon from the Univille region. Axew. Axew was first seen in this concept art for Pokemon the series Black and White. Fracture. Fracture has extremely strong tusks, but if they break, they will not grow back, so it will only use them when necessary, or if you tell it to use them in battle. Haxorus. In Black 2 and White 2, if you finish the Unova Pokedex, you will be given a pass to visit the Nature Preserve, where you will find a shiny Haxorus just sitting there. Cubchoo. Though Cubchoo's nose looks like it is running, it is actually part of the Pokemon. It is even born with this icicle attached to its face. Beartic. Back to the world of terrible shinies, Beartic looks awful, so don't make the mistake I made. If you catch a shiny Cubchoo, keep it, and never evolve it. Cryogonal. When it gets too hot, Cryogonal will turn completely to steam, and when it cools down again, it will return to a solid state. Shelmet. Despite wearing metal armor, the same metal armor that makes Escavalier a steel type, Shelmet is not a steel type, it is instead pure bug. Excelgor. This Excelgor card from the expansion Fusion Strike has the move Ninja Tornado, which isn't even a real move in the Pokemon games. But it should be because it has a badass name. Stunfisk. Galarian Stunfisk is the only Steel-type Pokemon to have fins, which makes sense because the only Steel Water-type Pokemon is a Penguin. Mienfoo. Many of Mienfoo's Pokedex entries reference how it uses its sharp claws to cut enemies, but it can't learn the move Cut, or even Slash for that matter. Mienshao. Mienshao will let out a strange wail before it begins battling, which is probably why its cry sounds like this. Druddigon. Druddigon is listed as red in the Pokedex, but it is definitely more blue or teal in my opinion. Golett. Golett has a 5% chance of carrying light clay, which makes sense because the Pokemon is made out of clay. However, it cannot learn the moves Reflect or Light Screen, meaning it cannot make use of this item. Golurk. Golurk is listed as a green Pokemon. Pawniard. Pawniard and its evolutions, Bisharp and King Gambit, are all named after chess pieces. Bisharp. Bisharp and its evolutionary line have the unique type combination Steel Dark. This makes it the only dual steel type Pokemon that doesn't have a double resistance. Bouffalant. Bouffalant will attack anyone that comes into its territory, but it will not attack anyone with an afro, meaning Jimi Hendrix, Randy Moss, and Foxy Cleopatra would all be safe around a Bouffalant. Rufflet. Rufflets are 100% male. Braviary. Hisuian Braviary is used as a glider in Pokemon Legends Arceus. Vullaby. Vullaby's diaper is a skull. The thing that looks like a heart is actually the nose. Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz is a counterpart to Braviary. Both are evolved to at level 54. Braviary is 100% male, while Mandibuzz is 100% female. In generations 5, 7, and 8, depending on the game you have, you can only catch one of these Pokemon, and the other is in the other game. Heatmor. Heatmor is an anteater that preys on Durant. It also shares a lot of similarities with Durant. They both have the same leveling rate, catch rate, base experience shield, base stat total, and gender ratio. Durant learns a new move every 4 levels up to level 56. Dino. Considering there are 1025 Pokemon, it is surprising that Dino is the only Pokemon whose English name has its letters in alphabetical order. Zwellios. Zwellios and its pre-evolution Dino are the only Pokemon whose only ability is Hustle, meaning their physical moves will always be 20% less accurate. Hydreigon. Hydreigon and its evolutionary line were originally designed after tanks. However, this was scrapped. The tread marks on its belly are actually remnants of this design. Larvesta. Larvesta evolves at level 59. This is the highest level evolution for a single stage evolution Pokemon. It is actually the 3rd highest level, only behind Hydreigon and Dragapult. Volcarona. Volcarona will always have the silver powder as an item in every game except Scarlet and Violet. In these games, it will never be holding an item. Cobalion. Cobalion, along with Terrakion, Viserion, and Keldeo, make up the Swords of Justice. Terrakion. Terrakion is the only rock-fighting Pokemon, though I'm pretty sure no other Pokemon wants this typing, as this typing has 7 different weaknesses. If you remember, that's the max you can have. Virizion. Virizion, along with Cobalion and Terrakion, are the only Pokemon with Paradox Pokemon that are not available in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet themselves. Tyrannus. Tyrannus is a pure flying type Pokemon, even though we are 641 Pokemon deep into this list, making flying the last type to get a mono type. Thundurus. In Generation 7, Thundurus can learn Smart Strike by TM, but due to a programming error, it can only learn this in its incarnation form, and not its Therian form. Reshiram. Reshiram, along with Zekrom, were revealed together on both the Japanese and English official Pokemon websites, making this the first time 2 Pokemon were revealed simultaneously. Zekrom. 2 weeks before Zekrom was revealed, Shoko Nakagawa mentioned on her blog about wanting a Zekrom because she loved Electric-type Pokemon. This was quickly taken down for obvious reasons. Landorus. Landorus is often considered to be the leader of the Forces of Nature group. Kyurem. Kyurem will learn different moves at level 48 depending on its form. Black Kyurem learns its signature move Fusion Bolt. White Kyurem learns its signature move Fusion Flare. Both of those are incredibly awesome moves. So, what does Standard Kyurem learn at this level? Scary Face. Keldeo. Keldeo learns its signature move, Secret Sword, by Tutor, making it and Meloetta the only Pokemon that learn their signature moves this way. Meloetta. Meloetta's signature move is Relic Song, a move that switches Meloetta between its forms. Genesect. Genesect can take the form of a flying saucer, which allows it to fly. It also has the ability to breathe in outer space while flying up there. Chespin. Many of Chespin's Pokedex entries mention how its quills on its head are usually soft, but if the Pokemon flexes, it can make them hard enough to pierce stone. Quilladin. Quilladin only has 3 total cards in the Pokemon trading card game, while its pre-evolution, Chespin, has 7, and its final evolution, Chestnut, has 6, proving yet again that middle stage Pokemon get no love. Chestnut. Chestnut is listed as green by the Pokedex, which is absolutely nonsensical. Fennekin. Fennekin has the lowest base stat total of any starter Pokemon at 307. It is also the only Pokemon with the base stat total 307. Braixen. Braixen keeps a branch on its tail. When it pulls it out, the friction causes it to ignite. Delphox. Delphox has the tuxedo style in Pokemon Unite. In this style, it wears a tiny top hat that is squished between its ears. Froakie. Froakie's bubbles around its neck can be used to protect it. The name of these bubbles are Frubbles. Frogadier. Frogadier can climb a 2,000-foot building in under a minute. Greninja. Ash Greninja is a special form of Greninja that is achieved by knocking out a Pokemon when Greninja has the ability Battle Bond. In the anime, it is a strong bond between trainer and Pokemon that lets them basically meld minds. Bunnelby. Bunnelby digs holes using its ears. Diggersby. Diggersby can learn the 3 elemental punches. It performs these moves with its ears rather than its hands. Fletchling. Fletchling is a Pokemon that can be summoned in Super Smash Bros. By the Pokeball item. However, it is one of the worst you can get as it just hops around and pecks. Fletchinder. Fletchinder and its evolutionary line are the only Pokemon that can have the ability Gale Wings, an ability that increases the priority of flying type moves. This is an extremely strong ability, but it is kind of wasted on this line as their highest stat is already speed. Talonflame. Talonflame was the first Pokemon in Japanese to have a name that was more than 5 katanas long. Scatterbug. Scatterbug and its evolutionary line were the only bug-type Pokemon introduced in Generation 6. This is the least bug-type Pokemon ever introduced in a generation. Spewpa. Spewpa and its evolutionary line are the only bug-type Pokemon that can have the ability Friend Guard, an ability that lowers damage to allied Pokemon. Vivillon. Vivillon has 20 distinct patterns. Due to having 20 different patterns, it is the Pokemon in the most color groupings, being in 9. Litleo. Litleo is the first Pokemon to have normal as its secondary typing and not its main. Pyroar. Male Pyroar in its official art has a chevron-shaped nose, but in all other media it has a triangle-shaped nose just like the female. Flabebe. Flabebe is the only Pokemon with diacritical marks in its English name. Those are the little markings over the E. Floette. Floette and its evolutionary line are the only fairy-type Pokemon that cannot be obtained in any Generation 8 game. Flagorgis. Despite being part flower and learning more grass-type moves than fairy moves, Flagorgis is a pure fairy-type and not a grass-type. Skiddo. Though Skiddo can eat to gain nutrients, it doesn't need to because it can gain its energy from photosynthesis instead. Go-Go. Go-Go's horns are based on motorcycle handlebars. Pancham. Pancham has a Poketune all about it called The Pancham Who Wants to Be a Hero. Poketunes are short stories made for a very young audience with accompanying art. Pangoro. In order to evolve a Pancham into a Pangoro, you must have a Dark-type Pokemon in your party and must be at least level 32. Furfrou. Furfrou is one of only 2 Pokemon that can have the ability Fur Coat, an ability that doubles the Pokemon's defense stat. The other is a Alolan Persian. Esper. According to Esper's Pokemon Shield Pokedex entry, Esper has enough psychic powers to send a professional wrestler flying. Again, it's just so weird that many Pokedex entries reference professional wrestlers. Meowstic. During the Google Maps Pokemon Challenge, an April Fool's event in 2014, Meowstic's genders were separated into 2 different Pokedex entries. This is the only time this has been done. Honedge. Honedge is shown sheathed in its official artwork, but in all of its in-game models, they are unsheathed, which makes sense as they are ready to battle. In Pokemon Home, where it isn't battling, it's also sheathed. Doublade. Doublade and its entire evolutionary line don't learn any special moves by level up, which makes a lot of sense as they are mainly physical attackers. Aegislash. Aegislash's offensive and defensive stats will flop depending on which form it's in. When in Sword form, its offensive stats are higher. When in Shield form, its defensive stats are higher. Spritzy. Spritzy evolves into Aromatisse when traded while holding a sachet. A sachet is a small perfume bag used to scent clothing. Aromatisse. Aromatisse's pink fur has such a strong smell that it will make trainers and Pokemon it travels with lose their sense of smell. Swirlix. Swirlix is based on cotton candy, a snack that was at one time known as Fairy Floss, which may explain its typing. Slurpuff. Slurpuff has a sense of smell 100 million times stronger than a human. It can tell a person's mental and physical health by smell alone. Inkay. Inkay evolves by flipping your console upside down. This is why its evolution, Malamar, is an upside down version of Inkay. Malamar. Malamar's signature move is Topsy-Turvy, a move that reverses all stat changes. For example, if a Pokemon's attack was raised by 2 stages, it will instead be lowered by 2 stages. Binnacle. If the 2 Binnacles living on one rock don't get along, they will leave and go to another rock. Barbaracle. Barbaracle is made up of 7 binnacles. The strange part about this is the Barbaracle's head has a thumb, a feature no binnacle is shown to have. Skrelp. Skrelp and Dragalge are the only Pokemon that can have the ability Poison Point, an ability that can poison Pokemon that make contact, or the ability Poison Touch, an ability that can poison Pokemon that it uses contact moves on. Dragalge. Dragalge and Skrelp were the only 2 Poison-type Pokemon introduced in Generation 6. Clauncher. Clauncher is based on the Pistol Shrimp, a shrimp that fires bubbles from its claws to attack prey and defend itself. Klotzer. Klotzer's claw is about 3 times bigger than its body. Helioptile. Helioptile and its evolution, Heliolisk, are the only electric normal-type Pokemon. Heliolisk. Heliolisk and its pre-evolution, Helioptile, have the signature move Electrify. This move makes the target's next move into an electric-type move. Tyrunt. Tyrunt will throw a fit if it doesn't get its way. It is extremely funny to think of this small dinosaur pouting. Tyrantrum. Tyrantrum, who is a giant dinosaur, learns the move Charm by level up. Just imagine this thing trying to be charming. Amora. Amora has an absolutely amazing shining. It changes from light blue to snow white. Aurorus. Aurorus and Amora are the only Pokemon with the ability Refrigerate, an ability that changes all normal type moves used by the Pokemon into ice moves and makes them 30% stronger. Sylveon. Sylveon is the only evolution to debut solo in a generation without any other evolutions. Hawlucha. Hawlucha is based on a Lucha Libre wrestler, a type of wrestling that is extremely popular in Mexico. The action is fast-paced and high-flying, which is why Hawlucha is a fighting flying type. Dedenne. Dedenne's whiskers are used to send out and receive electrical waves that allow it to communicate with other Pokemon. Carbink. Carbink was the only Pokemon that didn't fit into one of these 4 categories that was able to be transferred into Scarlet and Violet upon release. Goomy. Goomy's Pokedex entry in Pokemon Y reads, "It's covered in a slimy membrane that makes any punches or kicks slide off it harmlessly." But how true can this really be, as most kick and punch moves are physical, and Goomy's physical defense is only 35. It would crumble to almost any kick or punch move. Sliggoo. Sliggoo will only evolve into Goodra in the rain or fog. This is the only Pokemon whose evolution is dependent on the weather. Goodra. Goodra's stats are exactly double its first stage evolution, Goomy's. Sliggoo actually serves as a middle ground for these 2 Pokemon, with the numbers being rounded up. Klefki. When Klefki is threatened, it will aggressively jingle its keys at the threat. I imagine this wouldn't work very well on any cat Pokemon or baby Pokemon. Phantump. Phantump is based on the stump of a Kodama, which are spirits that live in an old tree. The same thing this magic card, Kodama, is based on. Trevenant. Trevenant has a style in Pokemon Unite that gives it an Elvis-like coat. Pumpkaboo. Pumpkaboo and its evolution, Gourgeist, are the only Pokemon whose base stats are changed based on its size. Gourgeist. In Pokemon Go, you can catch a Gourgeist wearing a top hat and bow tie. These items remain the same size regardless of how big the Gourgeist you catch is, meaning on the largest Gourgeist that the hat and bow tie are humorously small. Bergmite. How much do you think this little guy weighs? For reference, he's only 3 feet tall. If you guessed 220 pounds, you're absolutely right, and probably a cheater, because there's no way you would guess this thing weighs that much. Avalugg. In Legends Arceus, there's a boss fight with a large Hisuian Avalugg. Though this Hisuian Avalugg is bigger than every other Avalugg, the average height of the normal Hisuian Avalugg is actually smaller than the standard one. Noibat. Noibat's German name is FM. It is the only Pokemon that uses the Latin alphabet that doesn't start with a capital letter. The name is also a play on FM, which is a type of radio wave. Noivern. Noivern is an extremely cruel hunter at night, but in the daytime it becomes extremely timid. Xerneas. Xerneas is the mascot for Pokemon X. Yveltal is the mascot for Pokemon Y. Both these Pokemon have the exact same stats. Yveltal. Of all of the Pokemon game mascots, only Yveltal and Xerneas are not obtainable in Scarlet and Violet. Zygarde. Zygarde is the last Pokemon alphabetically. It also has 4 signature moves in Land's Wrath, 1000 Arrows, 1000 Waves, and Core Enforcer. Deontay. Deontay is the only Pokemon introduced in Generation 6 that can Mega Evolve. This is extremely weird considering that this was the generation Mega Evolution was introduced in. Hoopa. Hoopa has the largest size increase between forms, going from being 1 foot tall and weighing 20 pounds to 21 feet tall and weighing 1080 pounds. Volcanion. Volcanion is the only Pokemon that is a water fire type. It also has the signature move Steam Eruption, a 110 base power move with 95 accuracy, and a 30% chance to burn. Rowlet. Rowlet is the only starter Pokemon that loses a type once it evolves to its final form, losing the flying type and gaining either the fighting or ghost type depending on the region. Dartrix. Dartrix and its evolutionary line are the only Pokemon from Generation 7 found in Legends Arceus. Decidueye. Of all Pokemon with a regional form, Decidueye has the shortest time between its original release and the release of its regional form, being only one generation. Litten. Litten's Japanese name was revealed by a tweet of this image of their trademark in 2016. Torracat. Torracat has yet to be catchable in any Pokemon game. In order to get one, you must evolve a Litten or trade for one. Incineroar. Incineroar's signature move is Darkest Lariat. It gets its name from a wrestling move called a lariat. Strangely, it looks nothing like a lariat at all. Poplio. Poplio and its evolutionary line are the only Pokemon that have the ability Liquid Voice, a move that turns sound-based moves into water moves. Brionne. Brionne is known as the Popstar Pokemon, a category that it shares with no other Pokemon, though there is a Popstar Pikachu. Primarina. Primarina is the only evolved starter with the Fairy type. Pikipek. Pikipek is based on a woodpecker. Just like a woodpecker, it can drill into wood, but unlike a woodpecker, it can drill into rocks as well. Trumbeak. Trumbeak can actively bend its beak. The bending of its beak allows it to make hundreds of different calls. Toucanon. Toucanon's signature move is Beak Blast, a 100 power, 100 accuracy flying type move that has decreased priority, meaning it will move second in battle. Yungoos. Yungoos is a counterpart to Alolan Rattata. They both evolve at level 20, both evolve at a specific time of the day, and their evolutions are both totem Pokemon in their respective games. Gumshoe. Though Gumshoe first appeared in Pokemon Sun and Moon, Gumshoe is not originally from the Alolan region. They were instead brought to the islands to take care of the large outbreaks of Rattatas. This parallels the real-life small Indian mongoose that were brought to Hawaii to combat rats eating their sugarcane plants. Grubbin. Grubbin normally lives underground, but if they are unearthed by a predator like Hoot Hoot or Rookity, then they will gather around other electric-type Pokemon. Charjabug. Charjabug is often brought on camping trips by trainers as a way to charge their electronic devices. Vikavolt. Vikavolt learns the move Guillotine by level up. This means that it is powerful enough to cut a Pokemon in half. Crabrawler. Crabrawler's gloves are blue, but its shiny form has red gloves which are the color of actual boxing gloves. Crabominable. Crabominable was the only new Ice-type Pokemon introduced in Generation 7. This is the lowest number of a Pokemon type introduced in any generation. Oricorio. Oricorio has 4 forms related to styles of dancing. Ballet form is based on flamingo, Pom-Pom is based on cheerleading, Pau is based on hula, and Sensu is based on Nihon Boyu. Cutiefly. Cutiefly is tied as the smallest Pokemon with all these Pokemon. Ribombee. Ribombee absolutely hates the rain. It can also predict the weather, so it will only be seen when there is a string of a few rain-free days in a row. Rockruff. Rockruff evolves into Lycanroc by level up. The form it takes is based on the time of day it evolves. Lycanroc. Each of Lycanroc's 3 forms has a different stat distribution, but the only difference between midday and dusk is 2 speed moved to attack. Wishy-Washy. Wishy-Washy in its base form has the lowest BST of any Pokemon. However, in its school form, it has 620 BST, which ranks it in the top 100 Pokemon of all time. Marini. Marini can regenerate any part of its body except its head with a good night's sleep. Toxapex. Toxapex and its pre-evolution, Marini, are the only Pokemon that can learn the move Baneful Bunker, a variation of the move Protect that poisons the Pokemon who makes contact. Mudbray. Mudbray can carry up to 50 times its weight, and this Pokemon weighs 242 pounds, meaning it can carry 12,100 pounds, which is the average weight of an African elephant. Mudsdale. Mudsdale weighs 2,028 pounds. This makes it the heaviest non-legendary Pokemon. Dewpider. Dewpider can be seen as a counterpart to Surskit. Both have the same base stat total of 269, both evolve at the same level, and both can be found at Brooklet Hills in Pokemon Sun and Moon. During the day in this area you will find Dewpiders, and during night you will find Surskits. Araquanid. Araquanid and its pre-evolution, Dewpider, are the only Pokemon that can have the ability Water Bubble, an ability that halves damage taken from fire attacks used against it. It also prevents the Pokemon from being burned and doubles the power of water attacks used by it. This is a pretty dang strong ability. Fomantis. Fomantis gives off a sweet scent that attracts cutie flies. Lurantis. Lurantis is based on the orchid mantis, a mantis that mimics an orchid to hide from its prey. Lurantis is the opposite. It is an orchid that mimics a mantis to defend itself. Morlo. Morlo is the only Pokemon that can have the ability Rain Dish, but cannot learn the move Rain Dance. Shiinotic. In Pokemon Sun and Moon, Shiinotic cannot learn the move Sunny Day by TM, but its pre-evolution Morlo can. Salandit. Only female Salandit can evolve into Salazzle. With a generation of 8-1 in favor of males, getting one that can evolve can be a pain in the butt. Salazzle. Salazzle is based on the Hawaiian myth of Mo'o, a large female lizard that shapeshifts into seductive women to lure in men and eat them. Stuffle. As many people know, Stuffle is based on a teddy bear, and even has a tag on its butt. Beware. Beware loves hugging its companions, but due to its tremendous strength, it will sometimes break its trainer's back. Bonsweet. Bonsweet is listed as a purple Pokemon in the Pokedex, which is objectively wrong. Steenie. Steenie's rind can be used as medicine to help with stomach pain. Tesserina. Tesserina can only be evolved into while knowing the move Stomp, which feels like a sexual thing. And after a quick Google search, the internet definitely agrees. Comfey. Comfey is another Pokemon that is tied for the shortest. But of all the Pokemon tied as the shortest, this is the only one that cannot evolve. Oranguru. Oranguru is listed on the same Pokedex page as Passimian in Generation 7, but they aren't associated with a group. The only other Pokemon listed like this in the Pokedex are Tauros and Miltank. Passimian. Passimian is the teamwork Pokemon. Its Pokemon Sun Pokedex entry reads, they find groups of roughly 20 individuals. Their mutual bond is remarkable. They will never let down a comrade. Wimpod. Wimpod is the only Pokemon that has the ability Wimp Out, where it will flee from battle or return to its Pokeball if it falls below half health. Galiciopod. Similarly, Galiciopod is the only Pokemon that can have the ability Emergency Exit, which sounds badass compared to Wimp Out, but it's actually the exact same thing. Sandygast. Sandygast is born from grudges that seep into the sand from Pokemon that suffer defeat in battle or are deceased. Pylosand. Pylosand, like many other ghost types, feeds on Pokemon's life forces. It will make a sand vortex to capture Pokemon and feed on them. Pyukumuku. Pyukumuku is one of the Pokemon that can be summoned by the Pokeball item in Super Smash Bros. It will attack enemies with a giant fist and then waves by before leaving. Type Null. Type Null is the only Pokemon with a colon in its name. It's also the only legendary Pokemon given as a gift from an NPC. Sivali. Sivali evolves from Type Null. These two Pokemon stats are identical outside of speed. Minior. Minior in its meteor form looks the exact same whether it is shiny or not. Komala. Komala is the only Pokemon that can have the ability Comatose. This makes the Pokemon be treated as though it were asleep even if it is not. Turtonator. Turtonator is known as the Blast Turtle Pokemon, a title that fits it extremely well, but it probably should share it with Blastoise. Togedemaru. Togedemaru's name is a romanization of its Japanese name. Toga translates loosely to thorn or spike. Mimikyu. Mimikyu's true form is unknown. The closer we get to seeing it is a shot below water of its swimming. Bruxus. Bruxus is the only Pokemon that can have the dazzling ability. The ability causes priority moves used by the opponent to fail. Drampa. Drampa's name is a combination of the words dragon and grandpa, which is simply perfection. Delmise. Delmise's signature move is Anchor Shot, an 80 power 100 accuracy move that traps the target in battle. Jangmo-o. Jangmo-o's shiny makes the scale on its head pink, which makes it look like a little heart. Hakamo-o. Jangmo-o evolves into Hakamo-o at level 35. Hakamo-o then evolves into its final evolution, Kommo-o, at level 45. Kommo-o and Metagross are both evolved at level 45, tying them for the lowest level that any pseudo-legendary can reach its final form. Tapu Koko. Excluding Legends Arceus, which is up for debate on whether it's a main series game or not, Tapu Koko is the only wild Pokemon that is a final boss fight in a game. Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele and the other guardian deities are known as the land spirit Pokemon. Tapu Bulu. Tapu Bulu, along with the other guardian deities, are the only Pokemon that can learn the move Nature's Madness. This is a fairy-type move that is a variation of Super Fang, dealing half the target's health rounded up. Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini, along with the other guardian deities, are the only Pokemon that can use the Z move Guardians of Alola, which is a powered-up version of Nature's Madness that does 75% instead of 50. Cosmog. Cosmog, along with its evolution, Cosmoem, are the only Pokemon that have no access to damaging moves. This means they can only damage other Pokemon by using the move Struggle. Cosmoem. Cosmoem is the shortest Psychic-type Pokemon at 4 inches, but is also the heaviest Psychic-type Pokemon, weighing 2,204 pounds. Here is it being held with no effort in the mini-series Pokemon Evolution. Solgaleo. Solgaleo's verbal cry is Laliana, which are the Hawaiian words for sun and lion. Lunala. Lunala's verbal cry is Mahina Pi, which are the Hawaiian words for moon and bat. Nihilego. Nihilego is the only rock-type Pokemon that is categorized as white by the Pokedex. Buzzswole. Buzzswole's name is the combination of the word buzz, which the sound a mosquito makes, and swole, which is slang for muscular. Pheromosa. Pheromosa and Buzzwole are the only Ultra Beast Pokemon that share a type combination. Xurkitree. Xurkitree can learn 16 moves by level up. 12 of them are electric type moves. Celesteela. Celesteela may be based on Princess Kaguya from the tale of the Bamboo Cutter. In this tale, as a baby, the princess is found inside a bamboo stalk and was revealed to hail from the moon. Kartana. Kartana and Farfetch'd are the only Pokemon that can learn the move Cut by level up. Guzzlord. Guzzlord has the third highest HP stat of all Pokemon, only behind Chansey and Blissey. Necrozma. Necrozma is the first and only Pokemon that serves as the main antagonist of a main series Pokemon game. Magearna. Of all the Pokemon with unobtainable shinies, Magearna is the only one that is showing up in the anime. making it extra frustrating that you can't get this in any of the games. Marshadow. Marshadow's signature move is Spectral Thief, a 90 power, 100 accuracy ghost move that steals all positive stat boosts from the target. This move is absolutely insane, which is why it is only on a mythical Pokemon. Poipole. Poipole is the only one of the 11 Ultra Beasts that can evolve. Naganadel. Of all the base stats of all of the Ultra Beasts, Naganadel's speed is the only stat that isn't a prime number, though it is a prime power. Stakataka. Stakataka is listed as 18 feet tall. This is the type while it's at rest and not while it is standing. While it is standing, it is almost twice as tall. Bashflon. Bashflon is the only Ultra Beast with a signature move. The move is Mind Blowing, a 150 power, 100 accuracy move that drains half of the user's max health, meaning using this move twice without healing would KO the user. Zeraora. Of the 23 mythical Pokemon, Zeraora is the only one that is electric type. Melton. Melton is the only Pokemon that can exclusively be evolved in Pokemon Go. Melmetal. Melmetal is programmed to learn the move Thunder Punch when it evolves, but because it can only evolve in Pokemon Go, this cannot happen. Grookey. Grookey, alongside the other starters from Generation 8, appears in the music video for the song Celestial by Ed Sheeran. Thwackey. Thwackey can only learn normal, grass, and dark type moves by level up. Rillaboom. Rillaboom has the signature move Drum Beating, an 80 power, 100 accuracy grass move that lowers the target's speed one stage. Scorbunny. Scorbunny's yellow mark on its nose is based on a Japanese character design trope. The trope is that the character will have a bandage over their nose to show their rambunctious personality. Raboot. Raboot is the only fire-type Pokemon that is categorized as gray in the Pokedex. Cinderace. Gigantamax Cinderace stands on top of a giant fireball with a face. The fireball itself is an extension of Cinderace. Sobble. Sobble was the first Pokemon featured on the YouTube series behind the Pokedex, an interesting but extremely cringe series on the official YouTube Pokemon channel. Drizzile. Drizzile is an extremely smart but also an extremely lazy Pokemon. Inteleon. Though Inteleon might look silly making a gun with its hand, it can actually shoot water from its fingertips, as seen when it uses its signature move, Snipe Shot. Scovit. Scovit is one of the only Pokemon whose stat card in descending order has each stat either get lower or remain the same. Greedent. Greedent and its pre-evolution Scovit are the only Pokemon that can learn the move Stuffed Cheeks, a status move that makes the Pokemon consume its berry and raises its defense 2 stages. Rookidee. In the Pokemon anime, Leon finds an injured Rookidee and helps it by putting a bandage on it. Corvisquire. Corvisquire's name is a combination of the word corvid, a type of bird, and squire, which is an apprentice to a knight, which makes sense because it evolves into Corviknight. Corviknight serves as a flying taxi service called Galar Taxi. It will transport people from one location to another. Blipbug. Blipbug is based on the stereotype of a nerd, more specifically, the bookworm. Its eyes look like glasses and its neck looks like a bow tie. It is even said to be a very smart Pokemon. Dottler. Dottler's level 1 moves and evolution moves are one and the same outside of the move Strugglebug. Orbeetle. Orbeetle's Gigantamax form makes it look like a flying saucer. Nickit. Despite having the lowest attack stat of all Dark-type Pokemon, Nickit learns almost exclusively physical and status moves by level up with the lone exception of Snarl. Thievul. Thievul will secretly mark other Pokemon with their scent, then follow them back to their nest and steal their eggs and food. Gossifleur. Gossifleur and its evolution, Eldegoss, are the only Pokemon that can have the ability Cotton Down, an ability that lowers the speed of all Pokemon on the field when it is sent out. But don't worry, this mon will still never outspeed anything, as it has base 10 speed. Eldegoss. When Eldegoss's cotton is weaved together with Cottony's cotton, it makes a cloth that is popular with many luxury brands in the Pokemon universe, like Pokemon Gucci. Wooloo. Wooloo will often move around by rolling. Here's a short clip of it racing its field in a rolling race. Dubwool. Dubwool's shiny switches its brown and white fur patches. It still kind of looks like a soccer ball though either way. Chewtle. While Chewtles are teething, they will bite the horns of other Chewtles, which will usually result in brotherly fights between the Pokemon. Dreadnought. Dreadnought has the ability to extend its neck to bite. In its Gigantamax form, it can extend its neck even further. Yamper. Yamper is the only Pokemon that has the ability Ball Fetch. This ability will retrieve a Pokeball after the first failed catch if it isn't holding another item. Bolthound. Bolthounds can run non-stop for 3 days. With its top speed being around 50 miles per hour, it can travel around 3,600 miles in that time, meaning it can make it from any point in the continental United States to another point in the continental United States in 3 days. Roly-Poly. Roly-Poly and its evolutionary line are the only Pokemon that can have the ability Steam Engine, an ability that raises the Pokemon's speed by 6 stages when it is hit with a water or fire move. Carkol. Carkol forms coal inside its body. This coal was once used by the Galar people as the main source of power. Colossal. Colossal can have 3 different abilities: Steam Engine, Flame Body, and Flash Fire. All 3 of these abilities have one thing in common: they all make eggs hatch faster. Applin. Applin can only learn 8 moves total. Withdraw and Astonish are its only level up moves. Pounce and Terror Blast are its only TM moves. And Defense Curl, Recycle, Rollout, and Sucker Punch are its possible egg moves. Flapple. Flapple and its evolutionary line require the least experience of any Pokemon introduced in Generation 8 to reach level 100. They also require the least experience for any Dragon Pokemon to reach level 100. Appleton. Appleton and Flapple have the exact same Gigantamax form. This is the only instance in all of Pokemon in which 2 different Pokemon look exactly identical. Silicobra. Silicobra's Japanese name and category are identical, with the only difference being in how they are written. Silicobra's Japanese name is written in Katana, while its category is written in Hiragana. Silicobra is the only Pokemon with this distinction. Sandaconda. If Sandaconda fully contracts its body, it will spray 220 pounds of sand from its nose. The ability to spray sand from its nose is reflected in its signature ability, Sand Spit, in which the Pokemon will cause a sandstorm if hit. Cramorant. Cramorant has 2 alternative forms, Gulping form and Gorging form. If hit in these forms, it will spit out the Pokemon in its mouth, dealing damage and a secondary effect to the Pokemon that attacked it. If it spits out Arrokuda, it will lower the attacker's defense. If it spits out Pikachu, it will cause paralysis. Arrokuda. When Arrokuda overeats, it becomes extremely sluggish. This is when predators like Camarant or Wattrel will strike. Barraskewda. Barraskewda only learns status and physical moves by level up, which works well as its attack stat is more than double its special attack stat. Toxel. Toxel's category is the baby Pokemon. However, baby Pokemon is already a term in Pokemon. This term refers to a Pokemon at the lowest stage of evolution that cannot breed itself, but whose evolutions can. Toxtricity. Toxtricity comes in 2 forms, amped or low-key. Upon evolution from a Toxel, its nature will determine which one it becomes. Sizzlipede. Sizzlipede shares a common ancestor with Skorupi, so these 2 are like cousins or something. Centiskorch. Centiskorch is 246 feet long in Gigantamax form, making it the longest Pokemon in any form by 105 feet. Clobbopus. Clobbopus evolves into Grapplock by leveling up while knowing the move Taunt. It learns this move naturally at level 35, but can also be taught it by TR, meaning you could hatch a Clobbopus from an egg, teach it the TR for Taunt, and have a level 2 Grapplock. Grapplocked. Grapplock's signature move is Octolock, a 100% accuracy status move that traps the target and lowers their defense at end of turn. Sinistea. Sinistea comes in 2 forms, Phony and Antique. The only difference between these 2 forms is a teal stamp on the bottom of the Antique form. Poltegeist. The Cracked Pot item is used to evolve Phony Sinistea into Phony Poltegeist, whereas a Chipped Pot is used to evolve Antique Sinistea into Antique Poltegeist. Hatina. Hatina will consistently sense and capture emotions unintentionally. If she is constantly sensing strong emotions, it will exhaust her very quickly. Hatchram. The moment this Pokemon finds someone who is emitting strong emotions, it will pummel them senseless with its braids to silence them. Hatterini. Hatterini is based on forest witches from European folklore, such as Baba Yaga and the Hag from Hansel and Gretel. Impidimp. Impidimp and its evolutionary line are the only dark fairy type Pokemon. Morgrim. Morgrim and its evolutionary line are counterparts to Hatterini's evolutionary line. Both lines have the same evolutionary levels. Each individual Pokemon has the same base stat total. Both are based on European folklore, and one is 100% female while the other is 100% male. Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl and its evolutionary line have the signature move False Surrender, an 80 power dark move that bypasses accuracy checks. Obstagoon. Obstagoon's look is based on punk rock, with its hairstyle being a mohawk and the black and white color scheme. Its shiny form has more of a glam rock feel, being extremely colorful, which is reminiscent of artists like David Bowie. Berserker. Berserker is the only Pokemon with the ability Steel Spirit. This increases the power of steel type moves used by it and its allies by 50%. Cursula. Cursula is the only Pokemon that can have the ability Perish Body. When a Pokemon with Perish Body is hit with a contact move, it and the Pokemon that attacked it will faint in 3 turns. Sirfetch'd. Despite Sir being a male honorific, Sirfetch'd has a 50-50 male to female gender ratio. Mr. Rhyme. Mr. Rhyme is based on Charlie Chaplin's iconic character, the Tramp. Its shiny form even has more dulled colors, making it more reminiscent of black and white movies. Runergus. In order to evolve a Galarian Yamask into a Runegus, you must pass under the rock arch in the Dusty Bowl after taking at least 49 HP and damage from attacks without fainting, which I think is the most convoluted way to evolve any Pokemon. Milcery. Perhaps the second most convoluted way to evolve any Pokemon is with Milcery. In order to evolve it into Alcremie, you must hold one of these items and spin your council at the right time of day. Okay, maybe I was wrong. This might be more convoluted. Alcremie. Alcremie has the most forms of all Pokemon, having 64 total. Phalanx. Phalanx has a signature move, No Retreat, which provides the Pokemon with an Omni Boost, meaning it raises all of its stats by 1. The downside is that the Pokemon can no longer be switched out of battle. Pincurchin. Pincurchin is categorized in the Pokedex as purple, but is this really purple? The answer is no, and if you disagree, you should leave a comment to let me know. Snom. Snom was voted the 4th most popular Pokemon from Generation 8, which is pretty damn good for this little guy. Frostmoth. Frostmoth is based on the Arctic woolly bear moth, a moth that can survive in temperatures around negative 90 degrees Fahrenheit while in a dormant state. Stonejourner. Stonejourner is the only Pokemon that can have the ability Power Spot that powers up its allies' moves by 30%. Ice-Q. Ice-Q has 2 forms, Ice Face and No Ice Face. The No Ice form is spelled without a space, making it the Noise Face. Indeedee. Indeedee's level up moveset changes depending on its gender. Male Indeedees actually learn one more move than female Indeedees. Morpeko. Morpeko has the ability Hunger Switch, which switches it from full belly mode to hangry mode at the end of turn and vice versa. Depending on its mode, it will change the type of its signature move or a wheel, being electric in full belly mode and dark in hangry mode. Qfan. Qfan's skin is made of copper, and much like normal copper, will oxidize and turn green. Caporaja. When Caporaja has the heavy metal ability, it weighs 2,866 pounds, which exceeds the 2,204 pound limit for Pokemon weight. Dracozolt. Dracozolt, Arcozolt, Dracovish, and Artovish, they are the only fossil Pokemon made up of more than one fossil. Arcozolt. In the anime, Dracozolt and Arcozolt are given their species name by the character Brazen. Dracovish. Dracovish, along with its other combination fossil Pokemon, are the only fossil Pokemon that are not rock type. Arctovish. Octovish, along with its fellow fossil combination Pokemon, are the only fossils with no gender. Duraludin. Duraludin has a base stat total of 535, which is the highest of any Pokemon that can evolve. Dreepy. Dreepy has 4 level 1 moves, Astonish, Infestation, Quick Attack, and Bite, but learns no other moves by level up, meaning to learn another move by level up, you'll have to evolve it at level 50. Dracloak. Dreepy evolves into Dracloak at level 50 and into Dragapult at level 60. This is the lowest relative stage evolution requirement at 20%. Dragapult. Of all the pseudo-legendary Pokemon, Dragapult is the only one that cannot learn Earthquake. Zacian. Crown Sword Zacian had its attack lowered by 20 points from Generation 8 to 9. Zamazenta. Zamazenta was asleep for 1,000 years as a statue. It was asleep for so long that people forgot it existed. Eternus. Eternus, along with Zacian and Zamazenta, are the only Pokemon that cannot Dynamax in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Kubfu. The only difference between Kubfu and Shiny Kubfu is this mouth. Urshifu. Urshifu has 2 forms, Single Strike Style and Rapid Strike Style. Both are based on different ancient Chinese martial arts. Single Strike is based on Baji Chen, and Rapid Strike Style is based on Chai Chi. Zarude. Zarude, Dada Zarude form, is wearing a pink scarf with Celebi's Pokedex number on it. Regieleki. Regieleki is the smallest of the Regi Pokemon. It is about 4 feet tall and weighs 320 pounds. Regidrago. Regidrago is the only Regi that is not in Pokemon Unite. Glastrier. Glastrier and its counterpart Spectrier were the only Pokemon from the Crown Tundra DLC that were not spoiled before the release of the DLC. Spectrier. Spectrier is based on the Old English Black, an extinct horse breed, which explains why it is a ghost type. Calyrex. Unlike other Pokemon, when Calyrex Dynamaxes, it gives off a blue aura instead of a crimson one. Calyrex is the only Pokemon to do this. Weirdeer. A special Weirdeer in Pokemon Legends Arceus is used as a mount to move faster by the player. Kleavor. Kleavor is one of the noble Pokemon in Legends Arceus and serves as a boss. Ursaluna. Ursaring can only evolve into Ursaluna with the Pete Rock during a full moon. Basculegion. Basculegion is the Pokemon used to surf in Pokemon Legends Arceus. Sneasler. Sneasler is the Pokemon used to climb mountains in Pokemon Legends Arceus. It keeps the player in this tiny backpack. Overquill. Overquill's signature move is Barbarage, a 60 power, 100 accuracy poison type move that has a 30% chance to poison. If the target already has this status condition, the power of this move doubles. Enamorus. Enamorus is the only legendary Pokemon to close out a generation's Pokedex. All the others that have closed out a generation have been mythical. Sprigato. Because the leaf on Sprigato's face is similar to a pot leaf, the internet has dubbed this Weed Cat. Florigato. Florigato has a hidden vine with a spiked flower at the end of it uses as a weapon. Meowscarada. Meowscarada's signature move is Flower Trick, a 70 power grass move that bypasses accuracy checks and always crits. Fuecoco. Fuecoco can light up the tufts on its head. Crocolore. Crocolore's sombrero is a nest with a fire egg on top. It can control the fire egg and use it to attack foes. Skeledirge. Skeledirge is the heaviest final form of a starter Pokemon, weighing 720 pounds. Quaxley. Quaxley's white mark is reminiscent of a very simple way of drawing a bird taught to children. Quaxwell. Quaxwell's shiny form changes its secondary color to its main color. Quaquaval. Quaquaval's signature move is Aqua Step, an 80 power, 100 accuracy water type move that raises the user's speed stat by 1 stage. Lechonk. Lechonk's name is a combination of lechon, which is Spanish meaning suckling pig, and chonk, which is slang for fat. Oinkologne. Oinkologne is the only Pokemon to have a signature ability for only one of its genders. This ability is Lingering Aroma, a clone of Mummy, and only male Oinkolones can have it. Tarantula. Tarantula can use the yarn ball part of itself to attack, revealing its abdomen that looks like a spool of yarn. Spidops. Spidops' signature move is Silk Trap, a variant of Protect that will lower the attacker's speed if they make contact. Nimble. Nimble can only learn 3 special moves: Struggle Bug, Bug Buzz, and Terra Blast. Low Kicks. Low Kick's third set of limbs are meant to look like a pocket knife, and even extend out similarly. Palmy. Palmy, in its evolution, Palmo are the first Pika clones that can evolve. Palmo. In order to evolve Palmo into Palmot, you must walk 1,000 steps with it outside the Pokeball. Palmot. Palmot's signature move is Double Shock, a 120 power, 100 accuracy electric type move. After it is used, the user will lose its electric typing. Tandemouse. When Tandemouse evolves in the Mousehold, it will skip the evolution animation. This is the only Pokemon that will do so. Mousehold. Though it seems this is a family of mice, no one actually knows where the other small mice come from. They just showed up one day. Fido. Fido is a play on the cliche name for a dog, Fido. This Pokemon is also a play on the term purebred, because this Pokemon is literally bred. Darkspun. It is implied that Darkspuns are cooked Fidos. This is backed up by the fact that its main ability is Well-Baked Body. Smoliv. Smoliv Olive is green on its head, but in its shiny form it is black. These are 2 of the most popular colors for real-life olives. Dolive. Dolive loves to share its oils with others. This is a reference to olive oil, which is used for cooking. Arboliva. Its calm temperament is inspired by the symbolism of the olive branch, which traditionally represents peace. Squawkabilly. Squawkabilly has black hair, but in its shiny form it has pink hair. Knackley. Knackley and its entire evolutionary line have NaCl in their name, which is the chemical formula for sodium chloride, better known as table salt. Knacklestack. Knacklestack is the only Pokemon whose Japanese name contains this common Yotsugana. Garganicle. Garganicle will use its salt to cure the wounds of injured Pokemon. This is a play on the saying salt in the wound, which usually will hurt, but in this case will heal. Charcadet. Charcadet is the only branching evolution in which the branch you get is based on the version of the game you are playing. In Scarlet you can get Armorogue, and in Violet you can get Ceruledge. Armorogue. Armorogue's Scarlet Pokedex entry reads, Armorogue evolves through the use of a set of armor that belonged to a distinguished warrior. What if we run out of armor from distinguished warriors? Will Armorogues just go completely extinct? Or maybe when an Armorogue dies, they are the distinguished warrior and you can reuse their armor to evolve new Charcadets. Ceruledge. Ceruledge's stat values are the same as Armorogue's, just moved around. HP is swapped with speed, defense is swapped with special defense, and attack is swapped with special attack. Tadbulb. Tadbulb floats off the ground using electricity. During thunderstorms, it will float even higher. Bellybolt. Bellybolt is the only Pokemon with the ability Electromorphosis, which will charge the Pokemon's next electric type move when the Pokemon is hit. Wattrel. Wattrel can only learn 5 types of moves: Flying, Normal, Electric, Bug, and Psychic. Kilowattrel. Kilowattrel stores electricity generated by its wings in its throat sac. Maschiff. Maschiff's Pokedex Scarlet Pokedex entry reads, it always scowls in an attempt to make opponents take it seriously, but even crying children will burst into laughter when they see Maschiff's face. Poor thing can't even be scary to a child. Mabastiff. Mabastiff plays a major role in the story of Scarlet and Violet. It is Arven's main Pokemon who is injured and can only be saved by getting all the Herba Mystica. Shroodle. Shroodle and its evolution, Grafaiai, are the only poison normal type Pokemon. Grafaiai. Each Grafaiai paints its own individual pattern, and it will paint the same pattern over and over throughout its lifetime. Bramblin. Bramblin was a soul blowing in the wind that got tangled up with some dried grass. Brambleghast. On occasion, mass outbreaks of Brambleghast will bury an entire town. Toedscool. Toedscool and Tentacool have the same stat spread and evolve at the same level. Toedscruel. Toedscruel and its pre-evolution continue the trend of having Pokemon based on fungi every other generation. In Generation 1, it was the Paris line. In Generation 3, it was the Shroomish line. In Generation 5, it was the Fungus line. And in Generation 7, it was the Morlul line. Cloth. Cloth will hang upside down and wait for prey. However, it can't stay in this position very long because the blood will rush to its head. Capsakid. Though Capsakid evolves into a fire-type Pokemon, the only fire-type move it can learn is Sunny Day. Scovillain. Of the 38 Pokemon that can have the ability Chlorophyll, Scovillain is the only one that is not weak to fire. If you don't know, fire moves are powered up in the sun. Rellor. Rellor is based on a dung beetle, but instead of rolling around poop, it rolls around mud. Its shiny form actually rolls around a golden ball. Repska. Repska's body that supports the ball barely moves. Therefore, it is thought that the true body of the Pokemon is actually inside the ball. Flittle. Flitto's Pokedex entry mentions how it levitates above the ground, but it cannot have the ability Levitate. Espathra. Espathra is the only Pokemon that can have the ability Opportunist, which will raise its stats whenever the opposing Pokemon raises its stats. Tinkatink. Tinkatink's typing of Fairy Steel is extremely strong defensively, resisting 9 types and being immune to 2 others. Tinkatuff. Tinkatuffs will test the strength of their hammer by smashing against other Tinkatuff's hammers. Tinkaton. Tinkaton's signature move is Gigaton Hammer, a 160 power steel type move with 100% accuracy. The only downside is that you can't use it on consecutive turns. However, you can use Protect in between and then use it again. Wiglet. Wiglet was introduced on September 28th, 2022. This reveal introduced the concept of ecologically similar Pokemon. Wugtrio. Wugtrio can have the ability Gooey, while Alolan Dugtrio can have Tangled Hair. Both these abilities are exactly the same. Bombardier. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Bombardier is capable of having a 50% boost in damage for 4 types at once. 2 by the same type attack bonus in Flying and Dark, 1 by its signature ability Rocky Payload, which does rock, and 1 by Terrestrialization, which can be any of the remaining 15 types. Bombardier is the only Pokemon with this distinction. Finizen. Finizen and its evolution, Palafin in Zero form, are nearly identical aesthetically, with the only difference being the heart on Palafin's chest. Palafin. In order to turn Palafin from Zero form to Hero form, you must switch it out during battle. The easiest way to achieve this is by using Flip Turn, a water move that switches out the user. Palafin actually learns this move upon evolution. Varoom. Varoom and its evolution, Reveroom, are the only Steel Poison type Pokemon. As a result, they are the only Poison type Pokemon immune to the Poison type. Reveroom. There are special Reverooms known as the Starmobiles. They serve as the final Pokemon for each of the Team Star boss fights. Cyclizar. Cyclizar is the only Generation 9 Pokemon with a Paradox Pokemon counterpart. Orthworm. Orthworm is the only Pokemon that can have the ability Earth Eater, an ability that prevents damage from ground type moves and heals the Pokemon. Glimmet. Glimmet and its evolution Glimmora are the only Pokemon that can have the ability Toxic Debris, an ability that lays down toxic spikes when the Pokemon is hit with an attack. Glimmora. Glimmora is the ace Pokemon of Gita, who serves as champion for the Paldean region. Greavyard. Greavyard is Tyrocleffa and Palmy for the shortest Japanese name, being only 2 kana long. Houndstone. Houndstone's signature move is Last Respects, a 50 power, 100% accurate ghost move that increases by 50 power for each other Pokemon that is fainted in its party. This counts Pokemon that were revived and then fainted again. The move caps after 100 Pokemon fainted, making the max power of this move 5050. Flamigo. Flamigo shares a lot of similarities with Hawlucha. Both are fighting flying types, both have no evolutions, both have a base stat total of 500, and both have the same catch rate. Citadel. Citadel used to live in the water, but left to live on the land a long time ago. Cetitan. Cetitan has the longest cry of any Pokemon. It is just over 4 seconds long. Veluza. The gym leader Kofu has the catchphrase, Vote Veluza. I imagine that's how he says it. Dondozo. Dondozo treats Tatsuguri like it's its boss. This is because the Donzos are very tough, but not very smart. Tatsuguri. Tatsuguri has 3 different forms: Curly, Droopy, and Sussy. I mean, Sketchy. Each of these forms also has a unique shiny. Annihilate. Annihilate is currently the Pokemon with the biggest gap between the introduction of its pre-evolution and its introduction, with Mankey and Primate being introduced in Generation 1 and Annihilate being introduced in Generation 9. In years, this is a 27-year gap. Clodsire. Clodsire can stick spines out of its body to defend itself. Farafrig. Farafrig's psychic power is said to be 10 times stronger than that of a Girafarig. However, its special attack is just 1.19 times stronger than a Girafarig's. The Dunsparce. The Dunsparce's cry is composed of Dunsparce's cry pitched down with portions of it repeated multiple times. King Gambit. King Gambit's signature move is Kowtow Cleave. A Kowtow is to kneel and touch the ground with one's forehead in worship or submission as part of Chinese culture. This is exactly what King Gambit does, but then it attacks. What a little stinker. Great Tusk. Great Tusk is the only ground fighting type Pokemon. Screamtail. Screamtail has the largest base stat total increase from its relative, being 300 points higher than Jigglypuff. Brute Bonnet. Brute Bonnet learns Solar Beam at level 91. This is the highest level that any Pokemon learns this move. Fluttermane. Fluttermane has the highest special defense of any Paradox Pokemon, but it also has the lowest HP, attack, and defense of all Pokemon in this group as well. Slitherwing. Slitherwing and its counterpart Iron Moth are the first Pokemon used by the AI professors in the final boss battles of their respective games. Sandy Shocks. Unlike Magneton, its eyes blink individually of each other and not at the same time. Iron Treads. Iron Treads can roll around like a wheel. Even the Titan Iron Treads can do this, making it look like a building-sized wheel. And people think there are more doors. Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle can extend its head from its body using wires to keep it attached to headbutt its enemies. Iron Hands. Iron Hands is the only Paradox Pokemon that requires less experience to reach level 100 than its relative Pokemon. Iron Jugulis. While Iron Jugulis' color scheme is very similar to Hydreigon's, its shiny is simply metallic like many other of the future Paradox Pokemon. Iron Moth. Iron Moth can fire its legs like missiles, as seen on this Iron Moth card. Iron Thorns. Iron Thorns can retract the spikes on its back, as seen on this card. Frigibax. Frigibax can absorb heat and convert it into ice energy. This is reflected by its ability, Thermal Exchange, which will increase the Pokemon's attack when it is hit with a fire-type move. Artibax. Artibax will freeze the air around it to form a mask over its eyes and mouth. Baxcalibur. Baxcalibur's signature move is Glaive Rush, a 120 power dragon move with 100% accuracy. The downside is whenever it hits a Pokemon with this move, the next turn it will take double damage, and any move used on it will bypass accuracy checks. Gimmighoul. You cannot flee from battle with a wild chest form Gimmighoul. You either catch it, defeat it, or be defeated by it. Goldengo. Goldengo evolves from Gimmighoul when the player has 99 Gimmighoul coins. Its body is actually made up of all of these coins upon evolution. Wuqian. Wuqian and the other Treasures of Ruin Pokemon were the first Pokemon to have their stats adjusted by a patch. Chiampao. Chiampao is one of only 3 Ice-type Pokemon that cannot learn the move Ice Beam. The others are Snom and Frost Rotom. Tinglu. When Tinglu slowly lowers its head to the ground, it causes huge fissures. Chi-Yu. Chi-Yu is the only Fire-type Pokemon that is a fish and has fins. Roaring Moon. Roaring Moon is based on Mega Salamence, making it the only Paradox Pokemon that is based on a Mega Evolution. Iron Valiant. Iron Valiant is the only fairy fighting type Pokemon. It is also the only Paradox Pokemon based on 2 Pokemon, being based on Gardevoir and Gallade. Koraidon. Despite both Koraidon and Miraidon being able to swim and fly as the player rides it, neither can learn the move Surf or Fly. Miraidon. Miraidon is the only future Paradox Pokemon that doesn't have the word Iron in its name, though the Violet book does say its name used to be Iron Serpent. Walking Wake. Walking Wake's signature move is Hydro Stream, an 80 power water type move with 100% accuracy. Unlike most water type moves, when it's used in harsh sunlight, it will receive a 50% boost instead of a 50% decrease. Iron Leaves. Before the official reveal of Iron Leaves, a sketch of an imaginary Pokemon similar to it appeared in the Violet book in Pokemon Violet. The sketch is an amalgamation of the Swords of Justice. Dipplin. Dipplin is the only Pokemon that requires a TM to evolve, as it cannot learn the move Dragon Cheer by level up. Poltergeist. Poltergeist was teased during the 2023 World Championships, where the attendees were given a tea ceremony set with the dates of the reveal trailer on them. Sinestcha. Sinestcha and its pre-evolution are the only Pokemon with the ability Hospitality, which makes them heal allies when they are sent out. Okidogi. Okidogi is one of the bosses in the Teal Mask DLC, along with Mukidori and Pheasantipiti. Mukidori, along with Ukidogi and Pheasantipiti, are the only Pokemon that can have the ability Toxic Chain, that gives all of their moves a 30% chance to poison. Pheasantipiti, along with Ukidori and Mukidori, are known as the Loyal 3, the heroes of Kitakami. Ogerpon. If Ogerpon is sent out during the battle with Pecharunt at the end of the Muki Mayhem epilogue, Ogerpon will recognize it and react with distress and anger, yelling out, "Gra, Pon Pon!" Archuludo. Archuludo is not considered a pseudo-legendary Pokemon, but it is part of the Japanese 600 Club, which is very similar. Hydrapple. Hydrapple is based on a Hydra and an apple, but it is hard to tell based on its original art only having 1 head. It actually has 5. Gouging Fire. Gouging Fire is the only Paradox Pokemon whose signature move, Burning Bulwark, is a status move. Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt's signature move is Thunderclap, which is an electric variation of Sucker Punch. Iron Boulder. As Iron Boulder faints, its head will roll around. Iron Crown. Iron Crown's horns extend when it is using its signature move, Tachyon Cutter. Terrapagos. Terrapagos as a species has a 50-50 gender ratio, but the only Terrapagos that can be encountered will always be male. Because of this, a female Terrapagos cannot currently be legitimately attained. Pecharunt. Pecharunt is the only mythical Pokemon whose English name is different from its Japanese name. In Japanese, there's Momowaro. And that's it. That's a fact about every single Pokemon. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a great day.